Chapter 335. On the battlefield, the ripple continued downward until it landed on the Queen Mother, who was in great pain. In an instant, the heavy chains shattered, and countless golden grains of sand were sent flying. The Queen Mother's ferocious expression relaxed, as if she'd been freed. "You're too late." The Queen Mother's chaotic aura began to calm down, and the immortal light around her became resplendent again. She looked into the distance, her voice filled with resentment and anger. "It's the Jade Emperor's voice. He's come out." "Greetings, Jade Emperor." The grand firmament disbanded immortals, and the heavenly court's immortal officials were stunned at first. Then they all bowed in the direction the Queen Mother was looking at, their faces filled with respect. In the astral battlefield, the space in front of the Queen Mother trembled, and a figure walked out of the ripple. It was a man in a dragon robe and a dragon crown on his head. His face seemed to be obscured by a haze, and his appearance was somewhat indistinct. "Rise, all of you." The Jade Emperor lowered his head to look at the heavenly court. Although his voice was calm, it was filled with supreme authority. As the master of the heavenly court, even though he was just casually standing there, he still exuded the aura of a superior, causing others to involuntarily prostrate themselves in worship. Just as the Jade Emperor finished speaking, another figure appeared beside him. It was a woman whose beauty was no less than the Queen Mother's. She held a pure vase and a willow branch. Guanyin Bodhisattva first looked at the imprisoned Queen Mother, then at Chu Bei. Her expression was complicated, and she wanted to say something, but stopped. "Guanyin Bodhisattva is here too." Was she alerted by the battle between the Queen Mother and the owner of the All-Heaven shop, or did she come with the Jade Emperor? Recognizing the woman, the heavenly court's immortal officials were surprised. "Master, is that the Jade Emperor?" Sun Wujia pointed at the astral battlefield, his mouth agape. His eyes were filled with shock. He wasn't the only one. All of the All-Heaven shop's disciples looked at the Jade Emperor with an inexplicable gaze. After all, they were still mortals. Once upon a time, the Jade Emperor had been in existence far beyond their reach. But now, this person had appeared in front of them. However, he was standing on the opposite side of their boss. "Junior brother, do you know how strong the Jade Emperor is?" Goku looked at Zhu Beiji and asked. Zhu Beiji shook his head and said, "No one has ever seen the Jade Emperor in action, but as the leader of the heavenly court, he must be stronger than the Queen Mother. There's also Guanyin Pusa. I wonder if she'll attack Master. After all, Master defeated Guanyin Pusa 100 years ago." Sun Wukong's face was filled with worry. "Fellow immortal, please stop." In the celestial battlefield, the Jade Emperor looked at Chu Bei, his voice neither happy nor sad. "Stop? Do you know what would have happened if I hadn't come?" Chu Bei stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He glanced at Guanyin Bodhisattva and then at the Jade Emperor. The Jade Emperor did not reply. He just looked at Chu Bei calmly. Chu Bei looked at the Jade Emperor indifferently, his face expressionless. "If I had come a moment later, my two disciples would have died tragically under the immortal slaying saber. As for the All-Heaven shop, it had disappeared 2 hours ago, and its legacy had been severed. But now, you want me to stop. If it were you, would you agree?" Although the Jade Emperor before him was indeed different from what he had expected and was an extremely powerful existence, his strength was far above that of Guanyin Pusa and the Queen Mother. However, he had borrowed Xiao Hei's power and was not afraid. "Then, fellow Taoist, are you really going to destroy my heavenly court? Millions of lives?" The Jade Emperor frowned and asked in a low voice, "I'm not someone who kills indiscriminately, but where there's a cause, there's an effect. No one who participated in the attack on the All-Heaven shop will be able to escape." Chu Bei's voice was indifferent and filled with supreme authority. When this cold voice sounded in their ears, the hearts of the Queen Mother, perfected Tai, Li Jing, and the others trembled for some reason. Especially when they sensed the other party's gaze, a chill rose in their hearts. Isn't the Jade Emperor too kind? The owner of the All-Heaven shop uprooted all the peach trees in the peach garden, killed 5-star sovereign, destroyed Tai Jinren's body, and seriously injured the Queen Mother. Even the Queen Mother was defeated by the owner of the All-Heaven shop. I'm afraid the owner's cultivation has reached a level that even the Jade Emperor has to take seriously. No way. The Jade Emperor is the master of the heavenly court. A group of disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven who had awakened from their seclusion looked at the Jade Emperor strangely. The peak of the 9th level? The Queen Mother murmured. Her gaze returned to Chu Bei, and her expression grew more serious. No one knew the Jade Emperor better than she did. There was only one reason why he had chosen to mediate, and that was that the owner of the All-Heaven shop had reached the same level as him. Then let's exchange pointers. After a long while, the Jade Emperor tidied his dragon robe, shook his head, and took a step forward. With a faint sigh, the Jade Emperor's body surged with immortal light and a terrifying aura rippled. The next moment, under the gaze of countless pairs of eyes, an astonishing scene took place on the battlefield of stars. The bodies of the Queen Mother, Guanyin Pusa, and Chu Bei shrank at an incomparably terrifying speed. Even the star field was shrinking. To be more precise, it wasn't the battlefield of stars, Chu Bei, and the others who shrank, but the Jade Emperor's body that grew larger. In the blink of an eye, the Jade Emperor's body had grown larger than the star field battlefield. After a few seconds, even the star field battlefield had shrunk to his feet. Chu Bei's expression remained unchanged. Almost at the same time, his body grew larger and soon became as large as the Jade Emperor. At this moment, they had already left the battlefield of stars and seemed to have arrived in a more vast part of the starry sky. Around the two of them, star fields bobbed up and down. Some were spiral-shaped, some were mushroom-shaped, and there were all kinds of them, releasing different radiances. What level have the Jade Emperor and the owner of the All-Heaven shop reached? This battle is too terrifying. The immortal officials of the Celestial Court and the disciples of the All-Heaven shop looked at the distant starry sky in astonishment, their faces full of disbelief. Even the Queen Mother and Guanyin Pusa were somewhat surprised, especially the former. Although she had also entered the ranks of Daluo Golden Immortals, she was far from being able to reach the level of the Jade Emperor and Chu Bei. The Jade Emperor glanced at Chu Bei and made the first move. Majestic immortal chi seeped out of his body. In an instant, the starry sky trembled violently, and the surrounding star fields shook as if they were about to explode. In the star field closest to him, tens of thousands of great stars cracked at the same time and then exploded. The scene was terrifying. This was caused by the impact of the Jade Emperor's aura. However, in the next moment, all the great star dust in that star field began to reassemble and gather together, turning back into a complete great star. At this moment, life and death seemed to rise and fall in the Jade Emperor's emotions. The disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven, who were watching the battle in the celestial court, felt their souls tremble. Rumble. The Jade Emperor raised his hand and slapped out. The stars rotated, and the firmament was destroyed as if the world was being created. Unknowingly, his palm had imprisoned a star field that contained countless stars. With a flip of his hand, it suppressed Chu Bei. Chu Bei was expressionless and did not have any emotional fluctuations. He only stretched out his right hand and flicked his finger. Countless golden light spots condensed into a point, accompanied by ripples formed by chaos. In an instant, a beam of golden divine light swept out, destroying eternity and disappearing in an instant. Bang! The starry sky trembled as countless black holes formed and pitch-black cracks spread. The star field in the Jade Emperor's palm exploded and turned into dust. At the same time, the golden divine light beam disappeared. If you were willing to take a step back, you wouldn't have to do this. The Jade Emperor shook his head again and slapped down. Another star field was slapped towards Chu Bei. Unlike the previous time, this star field was directly compressed and condensed into a fist print. It was extremely terrifying. I established the All-Heaven shop to not be bullied by others. The same goes for the Celestial Court. Violators will be destroyed. Chu Bei stood where he was and did not dodge. He allowed the fist print to hit him. In an instant, his whole body burst out with brilliant light. A dazzling long sword crossed over his head and pointed at the Jade Emperor. The tip of the sword shot out blue-green light. In the light, One could vaguely see the scene of hundreds of millions of creatures worshipping. Their faces were full of piety, as if it was the supreme power of faith. Behind him, an ancient tree with a strange shape that exuded an ancient aura appeared. The branches and leaves of the ancient tree swayed. In the buzzing sound, thousands of colors of different shades rippled out from the top of the tree, sometimes changing into various shapes. An extremely dense and refreshing energy that caused one to feel relaxed and happy pervaded the air. It rippled through the battlefield and transformed into a miraculous scene that caused everyone to be astonished. This was the path understanding tree that Chu Bei obtained from the shrouded sky realm. After being strengthened by the system, it was strengthened by Xiaohei's power. Looking at it, each leaf of the path understanding tree contained thousands of stars, as if forming a star field. So what if you're the master of the celestial court? I'm not afraid. Chu Bei's emotionless cold voice fell. He stepped forward and a sword light shot out from the top of his head. Boom! In the starry sky, the sword light and the fist print collided. Suddenly, a supreme pressure shrouded the starry sky. With the collision as the center, several star fields were shaken away. In the starry sky battlefield, there was a faint pressure that penetrated thousands of star fields and penetrated into the celestial court. In an instant, the cultivators, including the disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven, trembled. The weaker celestial soldiers fell to the ground one by one, trembling. The endless light dissipated, and a faint sigh spread through the starry sky. The Jade Emperor and Chu Bei faced each other from a distance. No one retreated. The previous collision seemed to be evenly matched. However, at this moment, the Jade Emperor's appearance was no longer blurry. The layer of haze on his face was blown away. It was the appearance of a middle-aged man with distinct facial features. All immortals as one. The Jade Emperor looked at Chu Bei. Two beams of immortal light shot out from his eyes, like a river of stars. This is the Jade Emperor's call. At this moment, the immortal officials of the celestial court were stunned. They suddenly found that the immortal power in their bodies was flying uncontrollably toward the distant sky. Under their astonished gazes, it sank into the starry sky and gathered in the Jade Emperor's body. Gradually, the Jade Emperor's body became transparent and faintly turned into a broadsword. This sword stood in the starry sky. The hilt was formed by intertwining star fields. The body of the sword came from the Jade Emperor himself and the power of the immortals. As for the tip of the sword, there were endless stars spiraling. Looking at the starry sky battlefield, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and the other disciples of the All-Heaven Shop breathed rapidly. They were extremely nervous. Merge. Looking at the broad sword that the Jade Emperor had turned into, Chu Bei's expression became serious. With one syllable, the Epiphany tree completely merged into Chu Bei's body. The long sword above his head, formed by Xiaohei's power, also sank into his body. In the next moment, Chu Bei turned into a beam of white light. Swoosh! With a strange sound, the white light and the broad sword collided. The starry sky was cut in half like a deep ravine, but also like a giant mouth, directly swallowing the nearer starry sky. When the two collided, the starry sky fell silent. Blinding white light filled the vision of all the spectators in the celestial court. Even the powerful heavenly Queen Mother and Guanyin Bodhisattva couldn't see the starry sky battlefield clearly. Is it over? Did the Jade Emperor win? Or did the owner of the All-Heaven Shop win? After a long while, an immortal official came back to his senses and couldn't help but ask. However, he was answered by a giant hand that reached down from the sky. The giant hand seemed to have pierced through thousands of star fields and reached down from the dazzling starry sky battlefield. Suddenly, Tai Zhenren screamed miserably. His nascent divinity was bound by the giant hand's chains. It wasn't just Tai Zhenren. Pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing, Dhritarashtra Heavenly King Li Shou, Verpka Heavenly King Imo Li Hong, Polylor Heavenly King Imo Li Hai, East Sea Dragon King, Neza, and some of the heavenly soldiers and generals were also bound by a ripple. With a scream, the giant hand reached for the Heavenly Queen Mother. Immortal light surged around the heavenly Queen Mother as she unleashed one immortal art after another. However, they were all powerless before the giant hand. Another howl of pain rang out as the giant hand grabbed the Queen Mother in its palm. Guanyin Bodhisattva wanted to help, but frowned when she sensed the giant hand's aura. In the end, she didn't dare to act rashly. The all-heaven shop shall not be invaded. All invaders shall be killed. A cold and emotionless voice came from the starry sky battlefield. It was Chu Bei's voice. Bang, bang, bang. As his voice fell, that enormous hand's starlight pervaded the air. Stellar rivers surged and stars were extinguished. Tens of thousands of figures exploded along with their nascent divinities. Even someone as strong as the heavenly Queen Mother couldn't escape. Her body and nascent divinity were both destroyed. Fellow immortal, you've gone too far. The Jade Emperor's voice finally drifted over from the starry sky battlefield. Then, another giant hand reached out, but this time it was aimed at the all-heaven shop disciples. Sensing the supreme aura contained in the giant hand, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and the others shuddered. However, just as the god of death was about to descend upon them, a ghastly white light sliced open the second giant hand and saved the disciples. Chapter 336. Those who should be killed have been killed. If you still want to fight, I'll keep you company. Chu Bei's indifferent voice rang out again. The next moment, the dazzling light of the star battlefield dissipated. In the battlefield, the star domain was completely destroyed, only leaving behind an expanse of primal chaos and that deep ravine. The white light disappeared and turned back into Chu Bei. With his hands behind his back, he looked forward with an expressionless face. The broadsword disappeared and turned back into the Jade Emperor. His dragon robe was in tatters, and there was a slender wound on his chest, from which golden blood flowed. At this moment, the Jade Emperor looked coldly at Chu Bei. Killing intent flashed in his eyes, but there was also a touch of helplessness in his eyes. The Jade Emperor was defeated. How is this possible? The Jade Emperor is the master of the celestial court. The heavenly Queen Mother and Tai Zhenren are all dead. Is the owner of the all-heaven shop so powerful? Even the Jade Emperor can't do anything to him. The disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven recovered from their daze and looked at the golden blood flowing from the Jade Emperor's chest. They were all shocked and in disbelief. The Jade Emperor was their faith, but now he was defeated by an unknown owner of the all-heaven shop who seemed to have appeared out of thin air. He won. Master won. That's great. Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji looked at each other. After being stunned for a moment, their faces were filled with excitement. Chu Bei's giant hand had successfully killed the celestial officials who had invaded the all-heaven shop, while the Jade Emperor's giant hand had been disintegrated. They were safe and sound. Boss, you're awesome. The disciples of the all-heaven shop were celebrating and screaming. They couldn't believe that their boss had defeated the legendary Jade Emperor. With such a boss, their future was promising. Gentlemen, there's no point in continuing to fight. Let's stop. At this moment, the sound of chanting suddenly rang out in the star battlefield. Then, a ball of bright golden light appeared. A figure was sitting cross-legged on a lotus. His body was like gold. His face was like a full moon. His eyes were like green lotuses, and the back of his head was shining with golden light. Soon after, 3 more figures appeared in the starry sky battlefield, standing in different positions. Tathagata Buddha, Taishang Laojun, Tongtian sect leader, Patriarch Bodhi. My God, even such a legendary figure from the era of creation has appeared. Recognizing the identities of the 4 figures in the battlefield, the immortal officials of the heavenly court were even more shocked. Chu Bei glanced at the 4 and nodded slightly. Regardless of who it was, they were all stronger than the Jade Emperor. The Jade Emperor's cultivation was at the peak of the 9th level of Almighty Immortal, which was equivalent to the peak of the Great Emperor in the shrouding heaven world. And Chu Bei's strength was slightly higher than the Jade Emperor's, which was roughly equivalent to a half-step true immortal. As for Tathagata, Taishang Laojun, and the other 2, they had already become primordial chaos immortals, the legendary immortals in the shrouded sky realm. Let's stop here. In the astral battlefield, Patriarch Subhoodie slowly said the same words. Those who should be killed have been killed. Chu Bei glanced at Patriarch Subhoodie and said faintly. The Jade Emperor snorted coldly. Although his face was gloomy and murderous and tint flashed in his eyes, he stopped attacking. That's good. Taishang Laojun smiled. May I ask who Immortal Chu's master is? Tongtian's sect leader asked curiously. The moment he finished speaking, Lord Tathagata, Patriarch Bodhi, Taishang Laojun, and even the Jade Emperor fixed their gazes on Chu Bei. The five of them knew each other, but they knew nothing about the owner of All Heaven's shop who had appeared out of nowhere. I am an itinerant cultivator born in the chaos. There is no such thing as a master, Chu Bei replied. It seems that the owner of All Heaven's shop doesn't want to say more, but one day we will know, Tongtian's sect leader said with some dissatisfaction. Chu Bei smiled and didn't answer. Instead, he looked down and a beam of light pierced through millions of galaxies and landed on the heavenly court. All Heaven's shop has been established for 100 years. Although its foundation is still shallow, its momentum is strong. All Heaven's shop is not a crooked organization. In the future, when I am not here, if any faction tries to suppress the development of All Heaven's shop, I will return the favor 10,000 times over. The dead people you saw earlier are the best examples. A calm but majestic voice floated above the heavenly court, clearly entering everyone's minds and shaking their hearts. The immortal official's expressions turned ugly. The owner of All Heaven's shop's words were clearly a threat, but they didn't dare to talk back. After all, even the Jade Emperor had been defeated. Who knew if the Jade Emperor could protect them if they spoke up? The disciples of All Heaven's shop felt their blood boil. They were all extremely excited. Zhu Beiji, in particular, had an indescribable feeling in his heart. He used to be Marshal Canopy of the Heavenly Court, in charge of 80,000 Navy soldiers. However, because he took liberties with Chang'e, he was banished to the human world and reincarnated as a pig demon. His life was originally hated by everyone, but because of Chu Bei's appearance, his trajectory changed. Before becoming his disciple, he didn't even dare to imagine that his master's strength was above the Jade Emperor's. Owner of All Heaven's shop, are you saying this to us as well? Tongtian frowned. It's for everyone, for all sections. From beginning to end, Chu Bei's emotions didn't change much, but you've only taken half a step. You haven't truly taken a step, Tongtian said in a low voice, as if reminding him of something. Chu Bei was unmoved. He smiled. Sometimes, what you see isn't everything. Sensing the tense atmosphere between sect leader Tongtian and Chu Bei, Patriarch Bodhi chuckled and tried to ease the tension. The battle between sects has always been fair. The Queen Mother's actions were indeed a little overboard, but she has already paid the price for it. How far All Heaven's shop can go in the future will depend on how many trump cards they have. Chu Bei smiled knowingly and ignored Tongtian. He stepped out of the battlefield of stars and appeared above Central Heaven Gate. Almost at the same time, the Jade Emperor, Lord Gautama Buddha, and the others appeared. The battlefield of stars in the sky disappeared. Master, Boss, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and the other disciples of All Heaven's shop called out in unison. The Heavenly Court's immortal officials were also dazed. This was the closest they'd ever been to these legendary bigwigs. Chu Bei nodded at the disciples of All Heaven's shop, then pointed in the direction of the Heavenly Court's immortals. Whoosh! A figure who had been captured by Chu Bei appeared in front of him. That's the curtain-lifting general. Did he also participate in the siege of All Heaven's shop? No way. He broke the Jade Emperor's colored glass lamp and violated the heavenly rules. He's been exiled from the celestial realm and will be on his way tomorrow. When they saw the appearance of the figure that Chu Bei had imprisoned, the immortal officials were shocked. Greetings, Jade Emperor, Lord Gautama Buddha, Patriarch Bodhi. Facing a group of bigwigs, Monk Sha gulped. His voice trembled as he bowed. Finally, Monk Sha's gaze landed on Chu Bei. His body trembled uncontrollably. Clearly, he was very confused. He didn't know why he was captured, but he didn't dare to ask. Little guy, don't be afraid. I just feel that we're fated and want to take you as my disciple. Bei smiled at Monk Sha. What? The owner of All Heaven's shop wants to take the curtain-lifting general as his disciple? The curtain-lifting general was just exiled from the celestial realm by the Jade Emperor, and the owner of All Heaven's shop wants to take him as his disciple? Do you think the curtain-lifting general will agree? As soon as Bei's voice came out, the immortal officials' faces were immediately filled with astonishment. Are we going to have a junior brother? Sun Wukong and Beiji looked at each other. You want to take me as your disciple? No one was more emotional than Monk Sha. He opened his mouth wide and stared at Bei dumbfoundedly, as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. What? You don't want to? Bei's voice was calm. Know this? Monk Sha hesitated and subconsciously looked at the Jade Emperor. I forgive you for the glazed cup. You will continue to be the curtain-lifting general, the Jade Emperor said. Hearing this, Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Monk Sha with interest, waiting for his choice. After a long time, Monk Sha took a deep breath and seemed to have made a difficult decision. He bowed to the Jade Emperor and said, Jade Emperor, perhaps the celestial court is really not suitable for me. After saying that, Monk Sha turned around and knelt down in front of Bei. Master, please accept me as your disciple. Not bad. Bei nodded with satisfaction and then lifted Monk Sha up. Trust me, you won't regret your choice today. Heavens! The curtain-lifting general gave up his position and really became the disciple of the owner of the All Heaven's shop. If it were me, I would make the same choice. After all, he is the personal disciple of the owner of the All Heaven's shop. Look at Marshal Tianpeng. He was weaker than me back then, but now he can fight a primordial Unity Golden Immortal. The immortal officials began to discuss again. The Jade Emperor snorted coldly with a displeased look on his face. My matter is done. Let's go back. Bei glanced at the immortal officials and waved his right hand. Golden light spots appeared in the sky. In an instant, Bei, Sun Wukong, Beiji, and the disciples of the All Heaven's shop disappeared. Dongshang Divine Continent, All Heaven's shop. As expected of the immortal peaches that ripen once every 3,000 years. My whole body feels warm and my cultivation base has broken through. The owner is so mighty. He actually harvested all 3,600 peaches of immortality trees. Let's see who dares to provoke the All Heaven shop in the future. My choice back then was right. From now on, we will live and die together with the All Heaven shop. In front of the main hall of the All Heaven shop, Bei had swept away all the broken tiles and walls. Countless pavilions rose from the ground, looking extremely majestic. 3,600 immortal peach trees were planted in an orderly manner, emitting immortal light. At this moment, the disciples of the All Heaven shop were celebrating, drinking fine wine and eating immortal peaches. How delicious! Master, this is? Monk Sha took the proxy ring that Bei threw to him with a puzzled and curious expression. Chapter 337. This is Master's inheritance ring. Both Beiji and I have it. You will understand its beauty after you drip a drop of blood in it. With it, your future path of cultivation will be smooth sailing. Noticing Bei's gaze, Goku spoke on his behalf. Hearing this, Monk Sha glanced at Bei. Without hesitation, he bit his index finger and dripped a drop of blood into the proxy ring. The host has successfully signed a contract with Monk Sha. You have obtained the right to use Xiao Hei's power once. Level 1 proxy gift package issued. Hearing the system notification and looking at the number of uses of Xiao Hei's strength that had changed from 1 to 2 on the system panel, Bei's lips curled up. Xiao Sha, this is Master's gift to you. Bei opened the proxy gift package. Just like Goku and Beiji, it was also a crystal clear pill. What a strong medicinal fragrance. Monk Sha carefully took the pill, sniffed it, and threw it into his mouth. 15 minutes later. Master, I seem to have sensed the inheritance talent you gave me. Monk Sha seemed to have noticed the changes in his body. With a thought, his whole body turned into ice, and the surrounding temperature dropped. This ability is very good. Goku and Beiji, who were at the side, were surprised. Chu Bei nodded in satisfaction. He looked at Monk Sha and said, "The pill you swallowed earlier is called the frozen pill. The enhancement it gives you depends on how much you develop it." Speaking of this, Chu Bei glanced at Goku and Zhu Beiji again. "You still have a long way to go on the road of cultivation?" "Yes, master." Hearing Chu Bei's words, Goku, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha bowed at the same time. The system is about to activate the second experience for the host. Hearing the system's voice that suddenly sounded in his sea of consciousness, Chu Bei's smile disappeared instantly. Second experience? Chu Bei muttered to himself. Just as he was about to try to communicate with the system, the scene he was most afraid of happened. The space-time wheel appeared out of thin air, and just like before, a familiar suction force that he couldn't resist appeared and dragged him into the space-time wheel. Has Master left again? Don't tell me that it's going to be the same as the last time, leaving for another 100 years. Just take it that Master is in seclusion. After this battle in the Heavenly Court, I'm sure that even if Master isn't around, the other factions won't dare to cause trouble for us. That's right. What we need to do now is develop the All Heavens shop. When Master returns, let him see a brand new All Heavens shop. Looking at the disappearing space-time wheel, Goku and Zhu Beiji looked at each other, their eyes filled with faith. At this moment, Chu Bei exited the space-time wheel and arrived in a world full of chaos. Looking at the familiar ruined city below, Chu Bei couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He couldn't help but curse the system. He had just gone through his first training, and he had only just caught his breath, yet he was actually asked to go through a second training. Moreover, this kind of boring training would make him depressed for a long time, and more importantly, there were no benefits at all. In the previous training, he had killed for countless days and nights, and in the end, he had only obtained a drop of liquid that he didn't know what use it had. Chi. Chu Bei landed in the city, and a black shadow attacked him. As he sighed, Chu Bei once again fell into an endless slaughter, just like the first time he had gone through a trial. Unlike the first training, the strength of the beast that attacked him in the second training was much stronger. Time passed. Host's second training has ended. In the ruined city, Chu Bei didn't know how much time had passed, but he was in a daze for some reason. Suddenly, a trembling sound rang in his mind. Hearing the sound that he had been waiting for day and day, Chu Bei let out a long sigh and sat on the ground, paralyzed. Sure enough, not long after, the city that Chu Bei was in disappeared, and there was a tremendous change in his vision. This training was the same as the first. He had only obtained a blue drop of liquid, which was floating in his sea of consciousness. What a sin! Listening to the birds singing around him, Chu Bei let out a long sigh. If he had to go through this training a few more times, he was afraid that he would really be depressed. After a long while, Chu Bei flew high into the sky and glanced down. This was still the All Heavens shop before he left, but the area had expanded by hundreds and thousands of times. The current All Heavens shop was divided into the outer and inner areas. The outer area alone had thousands of areas, which was extremely huge. As for the All Heavens shop area before he left, it had become the core area. Chu Bei released his divine sense and found that Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha were not in the All Heavens shop. With a thought, he opened the system interface. Now, the reputation points of the All Heavens shop in this Hongming West travel plane had reached 70. In other words, as long as he added 20 more reputation points to reach 90, one of the two conditions for unlocking the level 13 commodity authority would be fulfilled. Chu Bei flew slowly and glanced at the thriving All Heavens shop. The most central area was still the same luxurious hall. A striking silver plaque hung in the hall, and the golden words All Heavens shop were particularly eye-catching. Around the hall, 3,600 immortal peach trees released dense immortal light, and the huge immortal peaches were surrounded by immortal chi. At a glance, there were at least 100,000 auras in the All Heavens shop. On the small paths and in the pavilions, there were cultivators everywhere. Chu Bei landed in a square, where hundreds of children were training their physiques and absorbing the spirit chi of heaven and earth. These children were of different ages. The older ones were 13 or 14 years old, and the younger ones were only 4 or 5 years old. Their young and tender faces were full of seriousness. The older children's punches were vigorous, and the younger children's gestures were like crying monsters. At the front of the square, a middle-aged man in a white robe with the words, "All Heaven's Shop," printed on the back swept his bright eyes over each child and was seriously teaching them. "Little guys, you've just entered the All Heaven's Shop after many rounds of selection. You can't slack off on the path of cultivation. When you grow up, you'll all become shop owners in your own area. In the All Heaven's Shop, as long as you cultivate diligently, you'll enter the channeled realm in less than 10 years. In 50 years, you'll become an itinerant immortal." The middle-aged man's voice was vigorous, and his expression was impassioned. "Master, we want to hear more about the boss's deeds. No matter how many times we listen, it won't be enough. Every time we listen to it, our blood boils." An older child shouted. 300 years ago, the heavenly court's immortal officials besieged the All Heaven's Shop. Even Ancestor Monkey and Ancestor Pig were captured by the heavenly court and were about to be executed. That was the most terrifying crisis the All Heaven's Shop ever faced. However, just as the All Heaven's Shop was about to be destroyed, the boss returned. First, he killed the invaders, then led a group of Grand Uncle Masters to attack the heavenly court. Do you see those immortal peach trees? They were stolen from the heavenly court's immortal peach garden by the boss. After that, he killed the pagoda-bearing heavenly king, the 5-star sovereign, Taizhenren. Even that old Jade Emperor was defeated by the boss. In the end, even the Queen Mother couldn't escape the boss's execution. It can be said that the boss didn't spare anyone who participated in the siege of the All Heaven's Shop. Do you know why the All Heaven's Shop is developing so well? It's because the boss said that if any faction dares to suppress the All Heaven's Shop again, he'll return it 1,000 times over. The middle-aged man's spittle flew everywhere. The more he spoke to the group of children, the more excited he became. It was as if he had personally witnessed that battle. In the end, even legendary existences like Buddha Tathagata, Patriarch Subhuti, Taishang Laojun, and Tongtian appeared. It was also at that time that the boss took an ancestor sand. Finally, the middle-aged man let out a long sigh. "Master, when do you think we'll be able to see the boss in person?" The group of children's eyes were filled with worship and anticipation. "Hee, I still want to see the boss." The middle-aged man rolled his eyes. "By the way, Master, why haven't I seen Ancestor Monkey, Ancestor Pig, Ancestor Sand, and many Grand Uncle Masters in the past 2 days?" a child asked. Ancestor Monkey and the others represented the boss at Penglai's Roaming Jade Palace. The middle-aged man said, "Roaming Jade Palace? Is that where the prime of Tongtian lives?" An older kid exclaimed. The middle-aged man nodded. Every 1,000 years, the major sects will jointly hold a Tao discussion conference. For this conference, legendary figures like Buddha Tathagata, Patriarch Subhuti, Jade Emperor, and Taishang Laojun will all be present. Our All Heaven's Shop naturally won't be absent. "Master, look, there's someone up there. He looks just like the boss in the portrait." At this moment, a child who was looking around discovered Chu Bei in the air and exclaimed. Hearing this, the middle-aged man and the children in the plaza all looked up at the sky. "My goodness, he really looks like him. He can't be some Uncle Master in disguise, right? I heard that the shop has an immortal technique called the 72 transformations that can transform into anyone." Unlike the children, the middle-aged man trembled when he saw Chu Bei's appearance. Even his words were trembling. 8th-generation disciple Li Xiang greets Lord Boss. The middle-aged man knelt on the ground. He wasn't as naive as these children. In this world, who would dare to impersonate the owner of the All Heaven's Shop? "Master, is he really the boss?" Seeing the middle-aged man kneel, the children also hurriedly knelt and looked at Chu Bei with eyes full of admiration. "Get up." Chu Bei smiled knowingly and waved his sleeve lightly. He lifted the middle-aged man and the children and said, "Tell me about the All Heaven's Shop's development in the past 300 years. "Yes, boss." The middle-aged man nodded heavily. After organizing his thoughts, he gave Chu Bei a very detailed account. After hearing this, Chu Bei could not help but let out a sigh, carrying a bit of emotion. Perhaps the harsh words he had said in the heavenly court back then had taken effect. In the past 300 years, the All-Heavens shop had relied on its special characteristics to develop steadily. This vast area was where the headquarters of the All-Heavens shop was located. As for the branches, they were spread across the 4 great continents. In terms of influence, the All-Heavens shop was now second only to Buddhism, Taoism, and the Heavenly Court. It was tied with the Jie sect founded by Tongtian sect master as the 4th major force. You 3 little guys have done well. Chu Bei sighed again and disappeared from the All-Heavens shop. He didn't go directly to the Green Turing Palace where the Tao Discussion Conference was held. Instead, he went to the Heavenly Court. This was because when he came out of the wheel of space-time, 4 red dots lit up on the map, which meant that he could sign a 4th contract. Chapter 338. Criminal Aoli, do you know your mistake? A shout resounded through the sky in front of the northern Heavenly Gate. Thousands of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals stood in an orderly manner. The leader of the immortal official was waving a staff with a spiral engraved on it. Beside him was a middle-aged man with dragon horns. It's just a pearl. I didn't mean to destroy it, but you reported me to the Heavenly Court. I don't want you as a father. In the middle of the 2 towering pillars, there was a white dragon bound by chains. It let out an unwilling dragon roar. Unrepentant. For Seas Starlord, please punish this unfilial son. The West Sea Dragon King had a fierce expression. The 4 Seas Starlord shook his head and waved the staff in his hand. This time, it was accompanied by lightning and a monstrous aura. Let's stop here. However, just as the spiral staff was about to land on the white dragon's body, an indifferent voice floated in the air. Following that, the void rippled and a figure walked out. Who are you? How dare you interfere in my family's matters? The West Sea Dragon King rebuked angrily when he saw who it was. He had stayed in the deep sea all year round and had never seen Chu Bei. Unlike the West Sea Dragon King, the 4 Seas Starlord and the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were stunned when they saw Chu Bei's appearance. Then, their bodies trembled inexplicably, and fear appeared on their faces. Lord Starlord, what's wrong? Could it be that this person has some background? Sensing the 4 Seas Starlord's expression, the West Sea Dragon King seemed to realize something. He looked at Chu Bei again with a solemn expression. Lord, why are you here? The 4 Seas Starlord looked at Chu Bei respectfully. His trembling voice was filled with nervousness. The staff in his hand disappeared. Back then, he had witnessed the entire process when the other party attacked the Heavenly Court. Perfected Tai, who had been killed, was his uncle master. I'm here for him. Chu Bei pointed at Aoli and shot out a ray of light from his fingertip. Immediately, there was a loud bang. The 2 pillars and the chains binding Aoli turned into powder at the same time and dissipated into the void. This, looking at the scene before him, the Dragon King of the West Sea was horrified. That was an immortal binding chain that could restrain a primordial unity golden immortal. Yet, it had turned into ashes with just a tap of the other party's finger. Thank you for saving me. The white dragon roared and flew in front of Chu Bei. It transformed into the appearance of a young man with gratitude in its eyes. May I know who you are? You can call me Boss Chu now, but you'll have to change that soon. Chu Bei's voice was calm. Boss Chu? You're the owner of the All-Heavens shop. Upon hearing Chu Bei's words, both the West Sea Dragon King and Aoli were stunned. Their pupils dilated rapidly, as if they had been struck by the 9 heavens' lightning tribulation. Their expressions were numb. Although they had never met the owner of the All-Heavens shop, his name had resounded throughout the human world and the immortal world 300 years ago. A supreme being who had defeated the Jade Emperor. Gulp. The West Sea Dragon King hurriedly took 2 steps back. Recalling his previous attitude, his face turned ghastly pale. There was no trace of blood left in his eyes. There was only fear left in his eyes. Aoli, I want to take you as my disciple. What do you think? Chu Bei ignored the trembling West Sea Dragon King. His eyes fell on Aoli as he went straight to the point. I'm willing. Master, please accept me as your disciple. Aolai was stunned at first. When he came to his senses, he was wild with joy. He nodded repeatedly and knelt down to pay his respects. He had never dreamed that such a good thing would happen to him. He had actually become the personal disciple of the owner of the All-Heaven shop. Then follow me. Chu Bei waved his hand and left with Aolai. Looking in the direction where Chu Bei had disappeared, the Four Seas Star Lord and the celestial soldiers and celestial generals recovered from their daze. After a long while, the Four Seas Star Lord ordered the celestial soldiers and celestial generals behind him, "Hurry, hurry up and spread the news. The owner of the All-Heavens shop who had disappeared for 300 years has returned." After taking Aolai in, Chu Bei immediately signed a contract with him. From then on, he had another use of Xiao Hei's power. Penglai, Green Turing Palace. This was the headquarters of the Jie sect and also the residence of the Tongtian sect leader. The so-called Green Turing Palace was not built on the ground. Instead, it floated in the sky. It was not just a simple palace, but a huge city. It was like a small world of its own. Although it was just above Penglai, it seemed to be separated by tens of thousands of galaxies. There was only one way for ordinary people to enter the Green Turing Palace. That was through the immortal teleportation formation in Penglai. Looking up, the Green Turing Palace was surrounded by the shadows of true dragons, divine phoenixes, black tortoises, cheilants, heavenly cranes, and other divine beasts. Countless stars floated up and down. Due to the Tao Discussion Conference, people were everywhere in the Green Turing Palace. However, among these people, the ones with the lowest cultivation level were itinerant immortals. The most crowded place was the Green Turing Square in the center of the city. That was because this was the place for the Tao discussion. Although the process of the Tao discussion would be projected to every corner of the Green Turing Palace, this did not affect the immortals' pursuit of the Green Turing Square, who did not want to experience the big shots who were preaching the Tao up close. This was the third day of the Tao Discussion Conference. Compared to the previous 2 days, the Tao Discussion Conference today was several times livelier. Unlike the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals preaching the Tao 2 days ago, today, the Gautama Buddha, Patriarch Bodhi, the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, the Tongtian sect leader, and the Jade Emperor, the 5 supreme existences of the current era, would all appear. This is my first time at the Tao Discussion Conference. I'm extremely excited when I think about being able to see those legendary existences. Yes, if I can really comprehend something from the preaching of these Zenith Heaven Primordial Chaos Immortals, that would be really amazing. It would be of great help to my future cultivation. It's a pity that one person is missing. If that person was also here, this Tao Discussion Conference would be perfect. If I'm not wrong, you should be talking about the owner of the All-Heaven shop who disappeared for 300 years, right? Apart from him, who else can be mentioned in the same breath as those people? When will the Tao Discussion Conference begin today? I can't wait. The Green Turing Square was packed to the brim. Countless people could only stand. If it were not for the prohibition of flying, the sky would have been filled with figures, a dark mass of people. Rumble. Just as the immortals in the square were waiting bitterly and discussing incessantly, a huge round platform fell from the top of the Green Turing Square's center. It was unknown what material this round platform was made of, but it emitted a 9-colored demonic light. One could vaguely see the formation flowing within. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As the round platform fell, 6 exquisite and luxurious chairs in the sky swept out from the gap in space and landed heavily on the round platform. The 6 chairs were distributed in a ring. Due to its special layout, there was no so-called primary or secondary distinction. As the host, I welcome all of you. Suddenly, a ray of divine light whistled over the immortals' heads and landed on one of the chairs on the round platform. It was a middle-aged man in a long black robe. His body was faintly shrouded in black energy, and his every movement released a supreme might. He gave off the feeling of a superior being. Master, are you going to participate in the Tao Discussion Conference? On the other side, above Penglai, Aolai looked at Chu Bei and asked tentatively. Clearly, he had some understanding of the Tao Discussion Conference. There's no hurry for the conference. Chu Bei glanced at Aolai, then at the 5th red, marked on the system's map. I'm going to take in another disciple. As soon as his voice fell, Chu Bei led Aoli through millions of galaxies and appeared in the distant sky, in a huge city surrounded by endless stars. At the same time, in a 7-story pavilion in the Green Turing Palace. Unlike the other 6 floors, the top floor was enveloped in a dazzling and majestic golden light, as if completely isolated from the outside world. At this moment, shrill and painful roars were echoing in the pavilion on the 7th floor, as if someone was suffering unbearable torture. Looking over, one could see a huge 8-trigram pill furnace floating in the room. The furnace had 8 corners, and each corner was engraved with different divine beast patterns. Buddhist scriptures could be faintly seen embellishing it, emitting dazzling golden light. The mournful wails came from the cauldron. This cauldron was not refining pills, but a living person. It was a handsome man. His entire body was bound by strange runes, and 9 different kinds of flames continued to burn his body. His struggling body and twisted expression could even be vaguely seen that his primordial spirit was slowly leaving his body. What do you think Golden Cicada did wrong? Buddha actually punishes him like this. This has nothing to do with us. Don't ask too much. Just do what Buddha told us. Amitabha. Around the furnace, 18 arhats stood in an orderly manner, each in a direction, and poured all their immortal power into the furnace. Master, why are you treating me so cruelly? Do you want your disciple to become someone else's furnace? You want to refine my primordial spirit and leave behind a body? Don't even think about it. Golden Cicada roared in the furnace, his voice filled with indignation, and his eyes were faintly filled with hatred. In the end, Golden Cicada seemed to have made a painful decision and actually absorbed the 9 colored flames in the furnace into his body. In an instant, his body and primordial spirit swelled at the same time. Oh no, he's going to self-destruct. Stop him. Buddha repeatedly instructed us to only refine his primordial spirit and not hurt his body. No, it's too late. The 18 arhats sensed the abnormality in the furnace, and their expressions changed abruptly. They hurriedly changed the seals in their hands, and their expressions became more and more panicked. Even if I can never be reincarnated, I will never become someone else's furnace. Golden Cicada's resentful and indignant voice floated in the Jade Pavilion. However, just as his body and primordial spirit were on the verge of collapse, an external force suppressed them. Suppressed? Suppressed? Great. Who is it that helped us? Golden Cicada's self-destruction was stopped, and the 18 arhats immediately revealed looks of joy. They hurriedly placed layers of seals on the furnace. It's out of control. What's going on? However, in the next moment, the 18 arhats' expressions changed again, and their faces were filled with shock. They suddenly realized that their connection with the furnace had been severed. At this moment, Golden Cicada in the furnace also revealed a look of disbelief. Although his self-detonation had been suppressed, the seal that had originally been placed on him by the Gautama Buddha had also disappeared. Who is it? With a loud bang, the cauldron exploded, and Golden Cicada flew out from within. Then, he released his divine sense and scanned the surroundings. Why do you want to die? Why don't you become my disciple? With me, you will comprehend the true mysteries of Buddhism in another way. A smiling voice rang out in the Jade Pavilion, and 2 figures walked out of the void ripples in the room. You are. Golden Cicada frowned slightly and sized up Chu Bei warily. In this world, there were only a few people who could casually break Gautama Buddha's seal. Take him down. Seeing the newcomers, the 18 arhats shouted and burst out with majestic immortal power at the same time. However, just as they attacked, their bodies were inexplicably sent flying backward with a boom, as if they had been severely injured by an invisible force. They immediately spat out blood and could not move. Who are you? The 18 arhats' faces turned pale, and they collapsed to the ground. After looking at each other, their eyes fell on Chu Bei again, and there was some fear between their brows. Chu Bei did not even look at the 18 arhats. He said to Golden Cicada, I am the owner of the All Heaven shop. I happen to come here and feel that we are fated to meet. If you become my disciple, I will give you the inheritance of the all-heavens shop. With Chu Bei's current cultivation, he had naturally used Xiaohei's power. While this made Chu Bei feel that the system was human-like, there were two options when borrowing Xiaohei's power. The first option was to be one level higher than the current enemy, and the second option was to maintain the power of borrowing Xiaohei's power from the previous time. In the current situation, between these two choices, Chu Bei naturally chose the latter. He would maintain the power of Xiaohei that he had used in the Heavenly Court 300 years ago, which was the peak of the 9th tier of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Chu Bei looked calmly at Golden Cicada. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his right hand, and a ring that emitted a purple light appeared in his palm. The owner of the All Heavens shop. Hearing Chu Bei say the name, the 18 Arhats and Golden Cicada trembled at the same time. Clearly, this name was well known even in Western Buddhism and had a great reputation. Golden Cicada soon felt relieved. Other than those supreme existences who had already gone to discuss the Tao, only the owner of the All Heavens shop, who had disappeared for 300 years, could casually break the Buddha's seal. This ring is the inheritance of the All Heavens shop? Golden Cicada's gaze was fixed on the proxy ring, and his eyes were filled with confusion and curiosity. Use your blood to form a contract with it, and you will naturally understand what I mean. However, after obtaining this ring, you will be a member of the All Heavens shop and will no longer have anything to do with Buddhism. Chu Bei toyed with the proxy ring and smiled at Golden Cicada. Tathagata wants to refine me as a cauldron, and our relationship as master and disciple is over. As long as I can pursue the Tao of Buddhism, it doesn't matter if I am no longer in Buddhism. Golden Cicada muttered to himself, then fell to his knees before Chu Bei. Master, please accept this disciple's kowtow. The choice you made this time will allow you to go further in the path of the Buddha Tao. With a smile on his face, Chu Bei waved his right hand, and the proxy ring floated to Golden Cicada. Golden Cicada didn't hesitate and immediately did as Chu Bei said. After all, if the other party wanted to harm him, why would he save him? Host has successfully signed a contract with Golden Cicada. You have obtained the right to use Xiaohei's power once. Level 1 proxy gift pack issued. The system's voice rang out in Chu Bei's mind. Chapter 339. Master, is this the inheritance that your elixir gave me? Golden Cicada's trembling voice sounded in the pavilion after he swallowed the Buddha spirit pill rewarded by the first level gift pack. Buzz. Golden Cicada's body emitted a golden light, and a huge golden Buddha shadow appeared behind him. Looking at the strange phenomenon behind Golden Cicada, the 18 Arhats looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. They felt a mysterious aura from the golden Buddha's shadow, which came from the same source as the Buddhist Tao they cultivated, but it was purer. Develop this ability well. When you develop this ability to the extreme, you will find the profound meaning of Buddhism. Chu Bei stretched out his hand and pointed at the golden Buddha. After saying that, he waved his hand and disappeared with Golden Cicada and Ao Lai. Aquamarine Palace. Aquamarine Square. After greeting the people in the square, Tong Tian closed his eyes and started to meditate. Look, Buddha Tathagata is here too. Suddenly, a scream sounded in the square. Everyone immediately looked up at the round platform. Golden light filled the air, and the sound of chanting could be heard. Then, a figure walked out of the dazzling golden light. He sat cross-legged on the lotus. His body looked like it was made of gold. His face was like a full moon, and his eyes were like green lotuses. The back of his head was shining with golden light. Amitabha. Buddha Tathagata put his palms together and nodded to the crowd. He then sat on the chair next to Tongtian. How lively. Looks like I'm the third one. Not long after Buddha Tathagata sat down, another ethereal voice sounded. Look, it's Taishang Laojun. Someone exclaimed. Ripples appeared on the round platform. A white-haired old man sat on the back of a green ox, waving a palm leaf fan in one hand and playing with the Vajra bracelet in the other. The Jade Emperor is here too. Just as Taishang Laojun sat on the chair, the Jade Emperor appeared. He nodded to Tongtian, Buddha Tathagata, and the others before sitting down. Another interesting day. After the Jade Emperor, an old man in a green robe appeared. That's Patriarch Bodhi, Buddha Tathagata's junior brother. Speaking of which, the person I admire the most is Patriarch Bodhi. Tongtian founded the Jie sect, Taishang Laojun founded Taoism, Tathagata Buddha founded Buddhism, and Jade Emperor is the master of the heaven. Only Patriarch Puti is the most down-to-earth. He only built a small cave of slanting moon and 3 stars in Mount Bitai, and he is willing to accept mortals as his disciples. Patriarch Subhuti is used to being idle, but his strength is there. Which Tao discussion assembly doesn't have a place for him? The gazes of the people in the square were all focused on the round platform. They were discussing animatedly, and it was extremely noisy. At this moment, 5 of the 6 exquisite chairs on the round table were already occupied. Seniors, I still don't know where Master is. I will represent Chan School in this Tao discussion. After a long while, a white-haired old man on a flying sword flew over. He bowed to Tongtian, Tathagata, and the others before walking to the last chair. It's perfected, Yu Ding. Where did the heavenly primogenitor go? Could it be that he has already passed away? Someone in the square guessed. Tathagata, Tongtian, and Taishang Laojun glanced at Reverend Yu Ding and then ignored him, as if they had tacitly agreed that the last chair belonged to him. That's not right. Why are there only 6 chairs? Now the All-Heaven Shop's influence is greater than Chan School and is on par with Jie School. How can there be no chairs for them? That's true. There should be 7 chairs. Could it be that the people of the All-Heaven Shop didn't come? When all 6 chairs on the round table were taken, the people in the square noticed that something was wrong and began to discuss again. Tongtian, Jade Emperor, and the others seemed to have heard the voices in the square, but they ignored them. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the midst of the discussion, 3 divine rainbows streaked across the sky and landed on the round table. Look, it's the 3 heroes of the All-Heaven Shop. Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha are the 3 personal disciples of the owner of the All-Heaven Shop. As far as I know, Zhu Beiji and Monk Sha are already peak primordial unity golden immortals, and Sun Wukong has already become a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven. Seeing the appearance of the 3 figures, the people in the square suddenly had a strange look in their eyes. What are the 3 of you doing here? Yu Ding Immortal looked coldly at Sun Wukong. Tai Immortal was of the same lineage as him, but he had died tragically at the hands of the owner of the All-Heaven Shop. Since then, he had been prejudiced against the people of the All-Heaven Shop. Now, seeing Sun Wukong and the other 2 on the platform, how could he not be angry? In terms of influence, the All-Heaven Shop is above Chan School. If even you can sit here, why can't the All-Heaven Shop have a place? If you represent the primeval Lord of Heaven, then we represent our master. Sun Wukong looked at Yu Ding Immortal, and his Dharma body vaguely appeared behind him. For thousands of years, there have only been 6 chairs in the Tao Discussion Conference, representing 6 people. The All-Heaven Shop has only been established for 400 years. What right do you have to sit here? Yu Ding Immortal snorted. Moreover, how can a mere owner of the All-Heaven Shop be mentioned in the same breath as my master? Ridiculous. You're asking for a beating. Hearing Yu Ding Immortal's words, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha shouted angrily, and their auras rose to the extreme at the same time. The 3 of them attacked at the same time, and 3 terrifying attacks suddenly blasted toward Yu Ding Immortal. Yu Ding Immortal's face changed drastically. Obviously, he did not expect Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha to be so bold as to attack him on the platform. Although his cultivation was also at the level of a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven, he could only deal with Sun Wukong alone. How could he fight against the 3 of them together? Little guys, this is not the place for you to behave atrociously. Seeing that the attacks of Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha were about to fall on Yu Ding Immortal, an indifferent voice sounded, and then a big hand swept out. With a boom, it easily disintegrated the attacks of Sun Wukong and the other 2. As the host of this Tao Discussion Conference, didn't the Jie School consider the All-Heaven Shop? The current All-Heaven Shop is no weaker than the Jie School. Sun Wukong looked at sect leader Tong Tian without the slightest fear on his face. Even if your master came, he wouldn't dare to speak to me like this. You three little guys, do you really think you're something? Sect leader Tong Tian shouted, and a majestic and terrible pressure enveloped Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha. A huge hand swept out across the sky. Boom! Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha attacked at the same time, and three huge fist prints formed a triangle to meet the huge hand. With a loud bang, the three fist prints were shattered. The huge hand continued to move forward, towards Sun Wukong and the other two. Old man Tong Tian, why are you angry with the juniors? The All-Heaven shop is now comparable to the Jie school. It is reasonable to say that they should be given a place. Seeing that the huge hand was about to hit Sun Wukong and the other two, Patriarch Bodhi's voice sounded. At the same time, a huge silver shield appeared in front of Sun Wukong and the other two, blocking the huge hand for them. Let's talk about it at the next Dao discussion conference, Taishang Laojun said and waved the palm leaf fan in his hand, sending Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha off the platform. So, we still don't have a place? Damn it. If the boss is here, they wouldn't dare to treat us like this. Our Ancestral Master Sun, Ancestral Master Zhu, and Ancestral Master Sha injured? The All-Heaven shop's disciples were furious and indignant. Just as they were cursing, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk Sha appeared on the platform again, looking determined. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? On the platform, the Prime of Tong Tian glared at Sun Wukong and the other two, murderous intent surging in his eyes. Since Master is not here, we naturally have to seek an explanation for him. Sun Wukong looked at the Prime of Tong Tian fearlessly. Why do you give the primeval Lord of Heaven a place, but not Master? Do you really want to arrange chairs for you and let you sit with me? At this moment, the Jade Emperor stood up and looked at Zhu Beiji and Monk Sha, the former Marshal Tianpong and curtain-lifting general. Jade Emperor, we no longer have anything to do with the Heavenly Court. We are now members of the All-Heaven shop. In front of you, there is no such thing as monarch and vassal. Zhu Beiji and Monk Sha did not show any emotion when they met the Jade Emperor's gaze. How dare you? Hearing Zhu Beiji and Monk Sha's words, the Jade Emperor's face suddenly turned gloomy. He raised his hand and waved a ray of crimson light to suppress them. Sensing the terrifying aura contained in the crimson light, Zhu Beiji and Monk Sha did not dare to underestimate it. They quickly mobilized all the immortal strength in their body and gathered it to counter the attack. However, in front of the absolute disparity in strength, Zhu Beiji and Monk Sha's attacks could not withstand a single blow and were instantly annihilated. I haven't seen you for 300 years. I didn't expect you to have a breakthrough. No wonder you dared to ignore my words back then. However, just as the crimson light was about to fall on Zhu Beiji and Monk Sha, an extremely calm and indifferent voice filled with supreme majesty rang out above the aquamarine square. To be exact, this voice rang out above the entire aquamarine palace and even in the star field outside the aquamarine palace. It shook people's hearts and reverberated directly in their minds like rolling thunder. Almost at the same time, a giant golden axe appeared in front of Zhu Beiji and Monk Sha out of thin air. With a swoosh, it destroyed the crimson light. After destroying the crimson light, the giant golden axe did not stop but continued to hack at the Jade Emperor. Bang! With a low roar, the Jade Emperor firmly received the giant golden axe. However, for a moment, his aura fluctuated violently. Who is it? How dare you attack the Jade Emperor? The appearance of the giant golden axe changed the expressions of the people in the aquamarine square. They immediately looked around, as if looking for the source of the voice. Among the people present, the weakest was an itinerant immortal. They naturally understood that whether it was the Jade Emperor's crimson light or the golden giant axe that appeared later, the energy contained in it was restrained to the extreme. Otherwise, at the moment of collision, perhaps just the aftermath of the collision would have turned them into ashes. Chapter 340. On the square, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, Monk Sand, and the other disciples from the All Heavens shop heard a familiar voice. They were stunned at first, but when they regained their wits, they were all excited as if they had been injected with immortal emperor blood. "Greetings, master. Greetings, owner." In the next moment, all the disciples of the All-Heavens shop, including Sun Wukong and the others, prostrated in unison. "What? The owner of the All-Heavens shop has appeared?" That golden axe from before was the move of the owner of the All-Heavens shop. It must be the owner of the All-Heavens shop. He's probably the only one who would dare to casually attack the Jade Emperor. Then there's a good show to watch. The owner of the All-Heavens shop who disappeared for 300 years has reappeared. Say, do you think he'll have a place on the platform? After learning the identity of the person who had taken action, the eyes of everyone in the square lit up with anticipation and excitement. Several supreme existences were sitting on the platform, but the owner of the All-Heavens shop was missing. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void trembled as three figures appeared above the podium. At this moment, the three became the focus of everyone's attention, especially the azure-robed man standing in the middle. Master, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk San prostrated in unison. "Well done. You didn't disappoint, Master." Chu Bei nodded his head in satisfaction as he looked at Goku and the other two with approval. In fact, he had already been here for a while. He wanted to see if his three disciples would stand up for him. "Master, who are these two behind you?" Sun Wukong sized up Ao Lai and the golden cicada with confusion and curiosity. "The two of them are Master's two new disciples. They are also your junior brothers." Chu Bei's tone was calm. "Look, isn't that the golden cicada? Why is he with the owner of the All-Heavens shop? Didn't you hear? He's the new disciple of the All-Heavens shop's owner." How could this be? The golden cicada is the second disciple of Gautama Buddha. How did he become the disciple of the All-Heavens shop's owner? Did he betray Buddhism and join the All-Heavens shop? After someone recognized the golden cicada master, there was another topic of discussion. "Chu, immortal friend, I didn't expect you to be here, and you've even taken in such a good disciple." Gautama Buddha's eyes flickered with golden light, and Buddhist scriptures could be vaguely seen flowing. His voice carried a hint of coldness. "I no longer owe you anything." Without waiting for Chu Bei to speak, the golden cicada's gaze landed on the Tathagata first. "Let bygones be bygones. We'll be strangers from now on." "What a stranger!" Tathagata Buddha let out a cold snort as thousands of golden lights gathered behind him, transforming into a beam of light that shot out. "You dare to attack my disciple in front of me? Are you treating me as if I don't exist?" Chu Bei waved his sleeve and the beam of light exploded. Lord Tathagata coldly glanced at Chu Bei, then exchanged glances with Tongtian and Taishang Laojun. Afterward, he no longer spoke. "So narrow-minded. Is this the way of Buddhism? You've really opened my eyes." The corners of Chu Bei's mouth curled up into a smile. He had thought that Lord Tathagata Buddha would directly attack him, but he didn't expect the other party to remain silent. "Didn't you say earlier that a mere owner of the All-Heavens shop wasn't qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as your master?" Chu Bei's gaze shifted to Immortal Yuding. The cold and emotionless voice lingered in his ears, and when he met the emotionless gaze, Immortal Yuding's body immediately trembled, and a touch of fear appeared on his face. However, before he could open his mouth to respond, the void around his body inexplicably twisted and squeezed. Bang! With a loud bang, Immortal Yuding didn't even have time to scream before he exploded, and his primordial spirit also collapsed. This, Immortal Yuding is dead. Was it the owner of the All-Heavens shop who killed him? Just as the rumors say, he's extremely overbearing. Is this the strength of the owner of the All-Heavens shop? He killed a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven with a single thought. Looking at the sudden explosion of flesh and blood on the platform, the disbanded immortals in the square were stunned. It took them a long time to recover their senses. When they looked at Chu Bei again, their gazes were filled with even more respect and a little fear. "Owner of the All-Heavens shop, you've gone too far. This is not a place for you to start a massacre." Sect leader Tongtian shouted angrily as he looked at the dispersing flesh and blood not far away. He looked coldly at Chu Bei. This truth discussion conference was held in the Aquamarine Palace, but just now, as the representative of the Chan sect, Immortal Yu Ding, had been killed right under his nose. Previously, my disciple asked why the Jie sect, as the host of this truth discussion conference, had not thought of arranging a seat for the All Heavens shop. Today, the All Heavens shop is no weaker than the Jie sect. Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back and looked calmly at sect leader Tongyan. And your answer is that even if I were here, I wouldn't dare to question you like this. Very well, then I'll use my actions to tell you. As his indifferent voice fell, Chu Bei raised his fist and punched out in a simple and crude manner. If one looked closely, one could vaguely see that the moment he punched out, several different kinds of energy converged and blended on the surface of his fist, forming an extremely compressed fist mark. Sect leader Tong Tian seemed to sense the threat. He stood up from his chair and punched out as well. Rumble. With a loud bang, the fist mark dissipated. Whether it was Chu Bei or sect leader Tong Tian, both of them had restrained their strength to the extreme, not leaking the slightest bit. Even so, the podium still shook slightly. You, how can your strength, 300 years ago, you only had half a foot in this place. Sect leader Tong Tian withdrew his fist. His emotions fluctuated, and there was some surprise on his face. Back then, I said that sometimes what you see is not everything. Even now, this sentence still holds true. Chu Bei looked at sect leader Tong Tian expressionlessly. Then, he waved his right hand, and a golden path led straight to the battlefield. Let's go. Sect leader Tong Tian was stunned. Then, he glanced at Taishang Laojun and Gautama Buddha. After a moment of hesitation, he snorted coldly and said, "Today is a Tao discussion, not a sparring session." After that, he sat back in his chair. Chu Bei frowned. He had an ominous premonition, as if a storm was coming. First, it was Gautama Buddha, and now it was sect leader Tong Tian. They were actually enduring. Although he was confused, Chu Bei wasn't too worried. Even though he had just used Xiao Hei's power once more, his cultivation base had temporarily increased by a major realm, and he had stepped into the ranks of grand immortals of origin. He still had 2 more uses of Xiao Hei's power. Since none of you stopped me, then I'll arrange a chair for myself. As Chu Bei's voice fell, a loud boom came from above the round podium. A crack appeared in the void, and 6 chairs appeared. Then, they landed firmly on the round podium with a dull thud. Disciples, take your seats with your master. Chu Bei's gaze swept over Goku, Zhu Beiji, and the others, and then he sat down on a chair first. Heavens! The owner of All Heavens shop is really awesome. There are only 11 people on the podium. Including the owner of All Heavens shop, 6 of them are from All Heavens shop. That's too powerful. Sect leader Tong Tian and Gautama Buddha both tacitly agreed. So this is the owner of All Heavens shop? Seeing him today, this trip was not in vain. When Goku, Zhu Beiji, and the others were all seated, a great commotion broke out in roving Jade Square. Patriarch Bodhi glanced at Chu Bei, then at his 5 disciples behind him and laughed. Fellow immortal Chu Bei, your temperament is quite to my liking. 15 minutes later, Gautama Buddha looked at Chu Bei and said indifferently, Fellow immortal Chu, today is your first time at the Tao discussion conference. Why don't you talk about your Tao first? As soon as Gautama Buddha's words came out, the square immediately became noisy. Everyone looked at Chu Bei with great anticipation. Whether it was sect leader Tong Tian, Gautama Buddha beads, Patriarch Bodhi, Taishang Laojun, or the Jade Emperor's Tao, they all had some understanding. After all, this was not the first time the Tao discussion conference was held. However, the owner of All Heavens shop seemed to have appeared out of thin air. He first appeared in front of everyone 400 years ago. No one knew his Tao. Since you want to understand my Tao, then I'll explain it a little. Chu Bei got up from his chair and floated to the edge of the round podium, facing the tens of thousands of people in the square. My Tao is the fusion of thousands of Taos into one. Chu Bei's gaze swept across the crowd. As his voice fell, an incomparably huge image appeared behind him. In the image, there were rows of shelves. On each shelf, There were hundreds of balls of light. Looking closely, there seemed to be a mysterious item in each ball of light. I am known as the owner of All Heaven's shop. I have hundreds of millions of immortal treasures with me. Each immortal treasure corresponds to a supreme Tao in the world. Chu Bei waved his sleeve, and the shelf behind him trembled. The balls of light on it swayed, releasing immortal light. I preach the Tao. As long as you have enough wealth, you can embark on the shortcut of cultivation through the All Heaven's shop. Everything is available in the shop. You are welcome to patronize. At this point, Chu Bei reached out and took out a ball of light from the shelf behind him. This is the Tao of gravity. As the ball of light exploded, there was a loud bang, and a part of the sky suddenly collapsed. Immortal stones from the outer realm carrying a mysterious power fell down with a loud bang. They circled around Chu Bei, releasing a terrifying aura that frightened people's souls. This seems to be Sun Wukong's ability. In terms of aura, it's even more terrifying. He can actually activate immortal stones from the outer realm. Before the cultivators in the square could recover from their shock, Chu Bei took out another ball of light from the shelf behind him. The next moment, golden light spots covered the sky and covered the earth. It was dazzling. Oh my God, that's Chu Beiji's ability. The cultivators' pupils constricted as they exclaimed again. Before the heated discussion subsided, Chu Bei waved his sleeve again. When the third ability appeared, the temperature in the air plummeted. Snow and ice fell from the sky, and a bone-piercing chill filled the air. Everyone shivered. This is the Tao of ice. When Chu Bei's voice fell, the fourth ability appeared. Although there was no phenomenon, there was a Buddhist voice, as if thousands of people were chanting scriptures. Then, an incomparably huge golden Buddha statue appeared. The Buddha statue was covered in golden light, and its eyes were like a living creature. Just looking at it made people have an urge to worship it. This is the profound meaning of Buddha. Chu Bei's calm voice echoed between heaven and earth. Under Chu Bei's deduction, hundreds and thousands of abilities with different energy auras were displayed in the sky above the square. All of this made it seem as if Chu Bei's Tao was the fusion of millions of Taos into one. Chapter 341. Look, that's the Buddha behind Boss Chu. Could it be that the owner of the All Heaven shop knows Buddhism? Do you think the owner of the All Heaven shop is related to Gautama Buddha? Perhaps the reason why Golden Cicada became his disciple is because he also understands Buddhism. Looking at the giant golden Buddha behind Chu Bei in the sky, everyone was stunned and their eyes were full of shock. Even Gautama's expression was a little strange, with a hint of surprise. On the podium, Chu Bei was constantly using the celestial treasures behind him to display the power of various attributes while explaining cultivation to the cultivators below the podium. Of course, during this process, there was no lack of vigorous promotion of the All Heaven shop's products. At the same time, outside the Aquamarine Palace, several figures were busy planning and planning. The Aquamarine Palace was a huge city. Although it was in the sky above Panglai, it was actually in the depths of a distant star field, forming a world of its own. From afar, the Aquamarine Palace was surrounded by phantoms of divine beasts such as true dragons, divine phoenixes, black tortoises, cheilants, and heavenly cranes. Countless stars floated up and down. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared. At this moment, thousands of figures were floating outside the Aquamarine Palace. These people seemed to come from 3 different forces, forming a triangle and gathering in one direction. Judging from their auras, among these thousands of people, the weakest cultivation was actually a tiny disbanded celestial, and the strongest had already reached the disbanded celestial of the great all-embracing heaven, or even level 9. Without a doubt, these figures were all elite experts of a certain force. Due north. At a glance, one could see several famous figures. Apart from the Grandmaster of Heaven's 4 personal disciples, Taoist Duobao, the goddess of Golden Spirit, the goddess of Wudong, and the goddess of Turtle Spirit, there was also the Black Cloud's Immortal, the Golden Hooped Immortal, the goddess of Fire Spirit, Zhao Gongming, Fairy Yun Shao, and the goddess of Stone. The 28 mansions, 36 celestial spirits, and 72 earthly fiends were among them. Obviously, one of the three forces was the Jia sect. Southwest. Maitreya Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, Manjushri Bodhisattva, Moonlight Bodhisattva, Akalanatha, Peacock Wisdom King, and other Wisdom King. Even Samantabhadra Bodhisattva and Guanyin Bodhisattva were among them. Southeast. Taoist Master Taiji, Taoist Master Zishu, Taoist Master Du Yi, Taoist Master Xuanqiu, Taoist Master Miao Xing, Taoist Master Xianhuang, and other powerful Taoist existences each took a position. The top powerhouses of the Jia sect, Buddhism, and Taoism did not communicate with each other. It was as if they did not exist. The experts of the three sects were forming different strange seals. However, if one were to sense them carefully, they would discover that there was some kind of connection between the three seals. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the many experts cast their spells together, the stellar domain where Green Turing Palace was gradually trembled. The many stars in the surroundings seemed to be attracted by something as they gathered towards the Green Turing Palace. What do you think the Buddha is trying to do? Why is it that we are not allowed to participate in the Tao Discussion Conference, but instead have us come here to form such a strange formation? In my opinion, what we have now is only a broken formation. It is not complete, but just this corner of the formation requires all of our immortal power. Just think about it. Once this damaged formation is completely repaired, how terrifying will it be? I really can't figure out what the Buddha is trying to do. What's the meaning of this formation? Let's not be suspicious. We just have to complete the task that the Buddha gave us. There must be a reason for this. Amidst the discussion, a five-pointed star gradually appeared above the Buddhist powerhouses. It was crazily absorbing the immortal power of the Manjushri Bodhisattva, the Moonlight Bodhisattva, the Immovable Wisdom King, and the Peacock Wisdom King. On the other side, it was the same for the Taoists and Jia sect. All the powerhouses poured all their strength into the broken formation above. Look, there's movement in the formation. Suddenly, the goddess of stone from the Jia sect exclaimed. At this moment, all the powerhouses from the Jia sect, Taoism, and Buddhism revealed shocked expressions. The three forces were originally incompatible, but the broken formations they formed were actually connected to each other. The three broken formations were approaching each other at a visible speed, as if they were about to fuse together. What's going on? How can the broken formation that the Buddha made be related to the broken formations of the Taoists and Jia sect? Not only the Buddhist powerhouses, but the Taoists and Jia sect experts also revealed confused expressions. My body. How can this be? What kind of formation is this? Could it be that these three broken formations will be a complete formation after combining? In the next moment, the confusion on the faces of the powerhouses from the three sects disappeared, replaced by a touch of fear. Inexplicably, they lost control of their bodies, and the divine power in their bodies was continuously absorbed by the three broken formations above. Aquamarine Square. Chu Bei had already finished his explanation of the Tao. At this moment, the person preaching on the round platform had been replaced by Patriarch Bodhi. Rumble. However, halfway through Patriarch Bodhi's lecture, the Aquamarine Square suddenly shook violently. Is this an earthquake? Impossible. The Aquamarine Palace is floating in the sky. How can there be an earthquake? Then what's going on now? Have you noticed that the spiritual energy around us has suddenly become abundant? Not only the Aquamarine Square, but the entire Aquamarine Palace also shook violently. There were even deep ravines in some places. Sect leader Tong Tian, as the host of this Tao discussion, do you know what happened? A group of cultivators stabilized themselves and flew into the air. Then, they looked at sect leader Tong Tian on the round platform. On the round platform, Patriarch Bodhi also stopped preaching. He looked at sect leader Tong Tian and frowned. The Jade Emperor also looked a little pale. Chu Bei waved his sleeve and isolated the outside world from the vibration. His cold eyes were fixed on sect leader Tong Tian. As he thought, this year's Tao discussion was indeed unusual. This day has finally come. Sect leader Tong Tian seemed to know something. He muttered to himself, and his face was full of excitement. Chaos Immortals formation. Open. In the next moment, under countless gazes, sect leader Tongtian suddenly rose into the air. Then, as if he had gone mad, he laughed hysterically. Immediately afterward, accompanied by a cold shout from his mouth, the distant sky directly above the Bayou Square suddenly split open an incomparably huge circular gap. In the gap, millions of colors of different shades intertwined. One could vaguely hear a terrifying and strange sound whistling from within. Chi. A ray of purple light sprinkled down from the gap. In an instant, it enveloped the entire aquamarine palace, isolating it from the surrounding star area. Rumble. Then, the aquamarine palace trembled even more violently. More and more gullies appeared in the city. What is sect leader Tongtian doing? What is he trying to do? Vaguely, I have a bad feeling about this. Why have I never heard of this Chaos Immortals formation? What kind of formation is it? Looking at sect leader Tongtian, who seemed to have changed into a different person in the sky, the expressions of the cultivators were extremely unsightly. No, my intuition tells me that we can't stay here any longer. Atai disbanded Celestial sensed danger. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a divine rainbow and flew into the distance. Chila, however, before that Tai disbanded Celestial could fly out of the aquamarine palace, his body and primordial spirit were strangled by the purple light. The martial fire Celestial Monarch is dead. What's going on? Is it because of sect leader Tongtian? Everyone, don't touch that purple light. Could it be that this year's Tao Discussion Conference is a conspiracy? Is sect leader Tongtian trying to trap us all here? The cultivators looked at the martial fire Celestial Monarch, who was killed by the purple light barrier before he could even rush out of the aquamarine palace. Those cultivators who had the same idea as the martial fire Celestial Monarch and were about to leave immediately stopped. Then, they looked at sect leader Tongtian in the sky with resentment. Everyone, let's attack together and shatter this purple light barrier. Atai Golden Immortal said. 8 trigrams sacred technique, 8 changes of the war spirit, blood refining illusion mantra, freezing cold flame, lightning evasion demonic technique. As the Tai Golden Immortal shouted, several experts looked at each other and unleashed their strongest killing moves at the same time. Then, countless beams of dazzling light simultaneously bombarded the purple light barrier that was spilling down from the circular opening above. Chi, 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 chi. However, the hundreds of powerful attacks did not have any effect on the purple light barrier. On the contrary, the powerhouses who had attacked let out miserable shrieks one after another in the next moment. Even the Crow Taoist was killed by that purple light. That's a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven. If that's the case, it's even more impossible for us to touch that purple light barrier with our cultivation. What is sect leader Tongtian trying to do by trapping us here? What is he trying to do to us? Isn't he afraid of becoming the enemy of the entire immortal cultivation world? Seeing the experts who had bombarded the purple light barrier being killed one after another, especially after seeing the Crow Taoist die in the purple light, the experts who had come for the sparring session were even more terrified. Even the cultivators who had been staying at the edge of the aquamarine palace began to fly toward the aquamarine square. Chaos Immortal Array? This is the ultimate array created by Martial Uncle Hongjun. Tongtian, what are you trying to do? Patriarch Bodhi's eyes shot out a cold light as he stared coldly at sect leader Tongtian in the sky. His tone was interrogative. Going back 2 generations, whether it was sect leader Tongtian, Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, Patriarch Bodhi, or Gautama Buddha, their grandmasters were all Genesis primordial spirits. Sect leader Tongtian's master was Patriarch Hongjun, and Patriarch Bodhi's master was Patriarch Hun Kuan. Patriarch Hongjun and Patriarch Hun Kuan were fellow disciples. For this reason, Patriarch Hongjun was Patriarch Bodhi's martial uncle. I've been preparing for several years for the Chaos Immortal Array to open. Today, all of you will become nourishment for the array. Sect leader Tongtian did not answer Patriarch Bodhi's question. His cold eyes swept across the immortals below, and as his gloomy voice faded, his body suddenly grew rapidly. Then, he saw a crimson rainbow twining around his body from the circular hole in the distant sky. Ah! Sect leader Tongtian's body trembled violently as he was entangled by the red rainbow. He roared and his expression began to distort, as if he was suffering some kind of painful torture. But soon, the painful expression on his face disappeared, as if everything had returned to normal. Gradually, there were changes above the aquamarine palace. Strange ripples appeared, and a huge nine-sided array pattern slowly emerged. Rumble. Under countless gazes, the nine-sided array pattern became more and more solid. Mysterious runes and various amazing phenomena floated around it. There was a divine phoenix dancing, a true dragon roaring to the sky, a Chelan stepping on the sky, and a black tortoise carrying a mountain. Boom! With a loud bang, the nine-sided array pattern shook violently. As if it had a life of its own, a black mist began to emerge from its body. When the black mist dissipated, it seemed to have evolved. A huge white pupil appeared at the center of the array. The pupil moved, and there was a friction sound. Then, a violent and terrifying aura spread out. Tongtian, what are you trying to do? Feeling the terrifying divine power fluctuations released by the nine-sided array pattern, the Jade Emperor could not sit still, and his face became extremely gloomy. As for those itinerant immortals with weaker cultivation, they had already curled up and shivered in fear. Screech. The nine-sided array pattern shook, and a strange screech that seemed to come from the era of creation came from the white pupil of the array, echoing above the aquamarine palace. The terrifying sound waves spread far and wide across the entire star field, causing countless stars to shatter into pieces. At this moment, the nine-sided array pattern was like a primordial living creature that had awakened from a deep sleep. The screech was filled with heart-palpitating cruelty and brutality, and it was filled with endless destruction and killing. The source of the sound represented the most terrifying disaster in the world. Master, do you know what sect leader Tongtian is trying to do? Aolai looked at Chu Bei in confusion. Zhu Beiji, Golden Cicada, and the others were also puzzled. As he said before, he wants to use us as bait to sacrifice the Chaos Element Array. At this point, Chu Bei's lips curled into a smile, and he said, "As for his purpose, we will know soon." As his calm voice fell, Chu Bei continued to look up at sect leader Tongtian in the sky. His gaze occasionally glanced at Grand Supreme, Elderly Lord, and Gautama Buddha. The two of them were clearly different from the shock that Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor showed. They were extremely calm. "Everyone, please be on your way." Suddenly, a cold and indifferent voice came out of sect leader Tongtian's mouth, and it floated down from the sky. As the cold voice fell, sect leader Tongtian pointed his finger at the nine-sided array pattern with a red glow. In the next moment, a beam of light shot out from the white pupil of the nine-sided array pattern and hit the aquamarine palace. With a deafening boom, the green Turing palace exploded and was reduced to nothingness. As for those cultivators, they were safe and sound. However, due to the existence of the purple light shield, they could only float in the star field. Before the tens of millions of cultivators could recover from the shock of the aquamarine palace's disappearance, a shrill scream rang out. Then, tens of thousands of wails rang out one after another, filled with extreme pain. Chi, chi, chi. Inside the purple light shield, rune chains appeared out of thin air one after another, easily piercing through the experts' defenses and then stabbing into their bodies. Even someone as strong as a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven did not have the slightest resistance in front of these rune chains. Chapter 342. My divine power is being sucked away. No, don't. He's gone mad. Sect leader Tongtian must have gone mad. I don't want to die. Why? Why did I come to this Tao discussion? Pierced by the runic chains, the experts instantly discovered that their divine power was being forcibly sucked away by the strange power of the chains. Even their origin blood essence was being devoured by the runes. Looking at it, the end of the densely packed rune chains finally gathered together. It was the white pupil in the center of the nine-sided rune, with the immortal's enormous divine power and origin blood essence flowing into it. The light released by the nine-sided formation grew even more resplendent, and the ghastly white pupil began to take on the color of blood. Tongtian, I'm afraid you can't use the Chaos Origin 10,000 Immortals formation by yourself. Patriarch Bodhi glanced at the Chaos Origin 10,000 Immortals formation that was recovering and seemed to have some understanding of it. Then, he swept his gaze over the experts who'd been pierced through, and his eyes grew even colder. Bodhi, you're the most important nourishment for my plan. Tongtian's gaze fell on Patriarch Bodhi, his voice devoid of emotion. I don't care what your goal is, but you're using millions of lives as nourishment. No matter what, I have to stop you. Patriarch Bodhi shouted and strode toward the purple light barrier. Unlike the cultivators who'd been killed before, the immortal light gushing out of Patriarch Bodhi's body obliterated the purple light before it could even touch him. In the blink of an eye, Patriarch Bodhi emerged from the purple light barrier and faced Tongtian from a distance. Master, these chains don't seem to work on us. Sun Wukong glanced at the experts who'd been pierced and sucked away by the runic chains, then turned to Chu Bei. Your power comes from the All-Heavens shop, so it's a power that comes from outside this world. At this point, Chu Bei raised his finger and pointed at the Chaos Yuan 10,000 Immortals formation above him. He continued, it can only absorb the spiritual power of this world. Those chains are naturally ineffective against you. I see. Realization dawned on Zhu Beiji, Monk Sha, and the others. As for the other disciples of the All-Heavens shop, they were immediately protected by Chu Bei the moment the rune chains appeared. Outside the purple light barrier, Patriarch Bodhi stood on a star field. Immortal light surged from his body as his aura continued to rise. Pewdie, I'm not your opponent. Sect leader Tongtian shrugged when he met Patriarch Bodhi's cold eyes. He pointed at the nine-sided formation and said, the primordial immortals formation has been activated. You should know something about Master's formation, right? As soon as he finished speaking with a smile, Tongtian raised his hand and shot out a purple light that landed on the nine-sided formation. With a sharp hiss, his blood-red eyes turned and looked at Patriarch Subhoodie. Then, an incomparably tall figure flew out of the pupil. This figure was wrapped in chaotic energy, and it was difficult to see its appearance clearly. There was no vitality in its body, and it was like a puppet. Rumble. Two beams of red light shot out from the tall puppet's eyes, heading straight for Patriarch Subhoodie. Instead of dodging, Patriarch Subhoodie also shot out two beams of light from his eyes. With a deafening boom, the shockwaves from the collision of the two beams of light shattered a star field and shattered countless stars. Subhoodie, you should know that before the primordial immortals formation, as long as one hasn't stepped into the sky immortal realm, no matter how strong you or I are, we still have no power to resist. As Tongtian's voice rang out, the tall puppet suddenly clasped its hands together. With itself as the center, a bewitching light swept through the starry sky. As the light swept past the star field where Patriarch Subhoodie was, a shocking scene occurred. Patriarch Bodhi's body gradually turned transparent. The boundless immortal power in his body seemed to be purified by an invisible force, slowly disintegrating and dissipating. The sky immortal realm? Huh. Patriarch Subhoodie sighed faintly. Then, he hovered above a star field, crossed his arms, and sat down cross-legged. When he closed his eyes, his body emitted a low rumble. Then, the immortal light of the great Tao filled his body and turned into mysterious runes that sealed off the bottomless immortal energy in his body. At the same time, it expelled the invisible force that carried the power of purification. Not long after, his gradually transparent body became solid again. How long do you think you can last, Subhoodie? Tongtian glanced at the seated Patriarch Subhoodie and snorted coldly. Then, he raised a finger and pointed at the nine-sided formation runes. The screams of the 10 million experts inside the purple light barrier became even more miserable. Their expressions twisted, and the color of blood began to fade from their faces. Their auras went from stable to disordered, and finally weakened. The runic chains began to suck faster and faster, madly supplying immortal energy and blood essence to the nine-sided formation runes. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The nine-sided formation runes trembled, and the white pupils of the formation eye shot out several more beams of purple light that landed on the tall puppet. The tall puppet's aura grew more terrifying, and the purifying power on Patriarch Subhoodie grew stronger as well. Gradually, Patriarch Subhoodie's expression turned grave, and his body, which had returned to normal, slowly turned transparent again. Jade Emperor, I did not include you in my original plan. However, the power of the Great Revival Array seems to be lacking, so I can only include you in the plan. Tongtian no longer paid attention to Patriarch Subhoodie, and his eyes fell on the Jade Emperor. What is your purpose? The Jade Emperor looked coldly at the sect leader of Tongtian. Just like Patriarch Bodhi, he easily broke through the purple light shield and stood on a star. If you can live until then, you will know. Tongtian laughed. Just like before, he raised his hand and shot a beam of purple light at the nine-sided formation runes. A sharp sound rang out, and another tall puppet flew out from the white pupils of the nine-sided formation runes. The tall puppet twisted its body, and a demonic light shot out from its eyes. In an instant, it shrouded the star field where the Jade Emperor was. In an instant, the Jade Emperor's body trembled, as if an invisible force had inexplicably invaded his body. What a Chaos Immortals formation! The Jade Emperor frowned, and his hands quickly flipped over to form a seal. Then, one supreme technique after another entered his body. What is the origin of this formation runes? Not only us, but even supreme existences like Patriarch Subhoodie and the Jade Emperor are in danger. Is there really no one who can save us? I can't believe that in my life, I will become nourishment for a great formation. What's more laughable is that I don't even know what this formation is for. Within the purple light shroud, the millions of experts grew weaker and weaker. They struggled to lift their heads and look at Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor, who were trying their best to resist the purifying power. Their expressions were pained to the extreme, and their eyes were filled with unwillingness. Owner of All Heaven's shop, it's your turn now. In the sky, Tongtian glanced at the Jade Emperor, and then his eyes fell on Chu Bei. His voice was extremely cold, and there was a strong killing intent in it. Your arrival is a surprise. With your power, we don't have to worry about the failure of the plan. Tongtian laughed, and then his eyes narrowed. You provoked me many times before, so I will torture you first before sending you to become nourishment. As soon as his cold voice fell, Tongtian hit the nine-sided formation runes with another purple light. With a sharp sound, a third tall puppet appeared. You said that my arrival is a surprise? I may also be your biggest variable. With a smile on his face, Chu Bei stepped out of the purple light barrier and arrived at the battlefield of stars. Screech. The third tall puppet twisted its body and looked at Chu Bei. It let out a sharp screech, and two beams of demonic light shot out of its eyes. In an instant, a layer of ripples appeared in the star field where Chu Bei was, and a mysterious invisible force shrouded him. However, Chu Bei was unmoved. He still had a faint smile on his face as he allowed the purifying power to engulf his body. Look, the owner of All Heaven's shop doesn't seem to be affected at all. Could it be that this formation has no effect on him? But even Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor were forced into a passive position by the mysterious power of this formation. In any case, from the current situation, it seems that the owner of All Heaven's shop has indeed blocked the formation. Inside the purple light barrier, the eyes of millions of cultivators fell on Chu Bei. Their painful and twisted expressions were mixed with shock and a faint trace of expectation. Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor, who were sitting cross-legged and trying their best to resist the purifying power of the formation of 10,000 immortals, seemed to have sensed something. They opened their eyes at the same time and looked at the calm Chu Bei with shock and confusion in their eyes. This is impossible. How can you be fine? Tongtian's smile disappeared as he looked at the unaffected Chu Bei, who was walking over calmly, and was replaced by some gloominess and confusion. The Chaos Origin 10,000 Immortals formation was created by his master, Patriarch Hongjun. Once it was successfully refined, even a great immortal of origin would not be able to resist it. This was because this formation could automatically derive a mysterious power that surpassed ordinary immortal power. This power could not only devour ordinary immortal power, but also purify it. This was why even people as strong as Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor were forced into a passive position by the Chaos Origin 10,000 Immortals formation. If a mere grand formation can cause me to fall into such a predicament, then wouldn't I appear to be too weak? Chu Bei stood with his hands clasped behind his back and looked at Tongtian with a smile. Upon hearing Chu Bei's words, not only Tongtian, but also Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor's expressions turned somewhat unsightly. Rumble. Under countless gazes, Chu Bei calmly pointed a finger at the tall puppet. With a loud bang, the tall puppet exploded into nothingness. Since the purifying power did not work, the tall puppet formed by the formation of 10,000 Immortals formation was like a decoration in front of Chu Bei. Fine. Then I will kill you with my own hands. Tongtian quickly calmed down. His eyes were cold, and killing intent surged in them. Not to mention strength, even if Hongjun is here, he is not qualified to say such words. Although Chu Bei said with a smile, there was a kind of majesty in his words. The aura of an invincible realm expert filled the air. Chapter 343. Then give it a try. The Tongtian sect leader shouted. In an instant, an inexplicable domain surged between the two of them, forming a storm. The star domain trembled, the Milky Way surged, and countless stars shook. The owner of the All-Heaven shop and the Tongtian sect leader are fighting. The domain spread, and the starry sky became distorted. The faces of the tens of millions of cultivators in the purple light shield changed. Although the two of them were still in a state of balance, once broken, it would inevitably bring about a world-destroying disaster. Even if a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven rashly entered their domain, he would be instantly crushed into powder. After all, these were two supreme existences who had surpassed the golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven and had become primordial chaos immortals. At their level, they could annihilate the Milky Way and shatter the star domain with a raise of their hand. It was extremely terrifying. Boom. With a loud bang, the balance in the battlefield was broken. The Tongtian sect leader's eyes were cold, and he took the initiative to attack. As he raised his hand, the sun, moon, and stars revolved around his palm and fingers, and the great Tao roared. With a palm strike, rolling thunder first appeared and turned into stars one after another, deducing the Milky Way of the universe. Then, a Kuan Peng bathed in thunder and lightning spread its wings, swallowing the sky. Then, a huge shadow held a long sword and wantonly waved it. Each sword released a terrifying aura that traversed the sky. Those are the three techniques of the Jie sect. They're actually used at the same time, and they're even mixed together. In the purple light shield, the tens of millions of cultivators raised their heads with pale faces, and their expressions suddenly changed. Each of the three techniques of the Jie sect was incomparably powerful and had the power to destroy the world. Destroy! The Tongtian sect leader shouted, and the right palm that combined the three techniques changed unpredictably. Chaotic light gushed out of his palm, and it was too terrifying. In an instant, it drowned the star domain where Chu Bei was. Chu Bei was not afraid, and there was no trace of panic on his face. The chaotic aura behind him churned like a surging river, and the light contained in it evolved into a fist print. The starry sky trembled, and Chu Bei clenched his fist print to meet the attack, colliding with the palm print that combined the three techniques of the Jie sect. Boom! The moment the fist and palm collided, the great path in the dark sky shook. The chaotic light and immortal chi enveloped the two of them. Unmatched immortal force surged violently. The starry sky was cut apart by the two's laws. It was too terrifying, so much so that the cultivators inside the light barrier couldn't see through it clearly. At this moment, even someone as powerful as a golden immortal was trembling. Where the fist and palm collided, the aura that permeated the air was incomparably terrifying, shaking the souls of those who saw it. They had an irresistible urge to submit. Another rumbling sound rang out. The starry sky buzzed with wong-wong sounds. The immortal light scattered, and the two figures separated. "You have indeed entered this realm." Tong Tian furrowed his brows. His entire body was emitting immortal mist, and every pore of his was bursting with a supreme light. As he spoke, a feather-like sword appeared on the surface of his body. His entire body was covered in a peerless sword light. "I have too many concerns here. Let's change the battlefield." Chu Bei did not answer the prime of Tong Tian's question. With a loud rumble, a Tai Chi diagram appeared beneath his feet. Chaos Chi and Myriad Chi intertwined, spreading out and enveloping his entire body. Following that, Chu Bei waved his sleeve, and a golden path extended to another starry sky battlefield. In an instant, Chu Bei had appeared in a new starry sky battlefield that was countless galaxies away. "Just what I want." Tong Tian glanced at the tens of millions of cultivators in the purple light shield below. He took a step forward and disappeared. When he reappeared in front of everyone, he had already arrived at the starry sky battlefield that Chu Bei had opened up. As the main battlefield between Chu Bei and Tong Tian shifted, the tens of millions of cultivators also shifted their attention to the new battlefield. Patriarch Bodhi, Jade Emperor, Buddha Gautama, and Taishang Laojun all looked over. Obviously, they were also very concerned about the battle between the two. Primordial Chaos Eternity. Illuminate the universe. In the starry sky battlefield, Tong Tian floated above the surging Milky Way, stretching his limbs as if they were connected to the four poles of the starry sky. Even the universe was shaking. The moment his voice fell, Tong Tian turned into a ray of light. This was one of his unparalleled divine powers, a Tao affirmation technique that could break through the almighty immortal realm. It could annihilate the darkness, break through the chaos, and destroy everything. Suppress. The immortal light swept toward Chu Bei. Behind it, the true dragon coiled. The immortal phoenix let out a long cry, and the Kirans were everywhere. All kinds of strange phenomena flooded the Milky Way. "This method is far from enough." Chu Bei's calm voice fell, and he faced the immortal light head-on. In the process of moving forward, the iron lump shadow that looked like a puppet appeared behind Chu Bei. It merged into Chu Bei's body at an even faster speed. As the iron lump shadow merged into Chu Bei's body, his aura soared again and climbed to another level. Boom! In the earth-shattering sound, everyone saw the starry sky battlefield split into two halves. The starry sky battlefield collapsed directly. Tens of thousands of stars were annihilated and turned into nothingness. The surging Milky Way was cut off and swallowed by the pitch-black gap. Is this a battle between almighty primordial chaos immortals without any scruples? It's too terrifying. Looking at the starry sky battlefield that was almost beaten back into chaos, the tens of millions of cultivators in the purple light barrier were shocked. In the battlefield, two different colored lights fought back and forth, from one side of the starry sky to the other. Every time they collided, there would always be a starry sky battlefield and stars disappearing. They fought fiercely, and the universe was in turmoil. Ancient extinction. Finally, with a loud shout, the iron lump shadow in Chu Bei's body flew out and became solid. He punched out in place of Chu Bei. One could see that there were several different energy attributes intertwined on the surface of his fist, rotating in a regular pattern. Tiger subduing celestial phenomenon. The Tongtian sect leader also shouted. As his cold voice fell, endless black light surged out from the gap in the void around him. It gathered in front of him until it formed an incomparably huge black tiger. The black tiger roared, and the starry sky shook. It opened its huge mouth and pounced at the huge shadow. Rip. This time, the moment they clashed, the solid metal lump tore apart the huge black tiger. Then, with a ripping sound, the solid iron lump shadow's fist rapidly compressed. After shattering the huge black mist, It instantly appeared in front of the Tongtian sect leader. How is this possible? Sensing that the iron lump shadow had already arrived in front of him, the Tongtian sect leader's pupils suddenly shrank. However, the fist had already arrived in front of him, and he could not dodge it. Puff! Golden blood filled the starry sky as the fist shadow bombarded the Tongtian sect leader's chest. A bloody hole appeared in front of him. The Tongtian sect leader lost. He lost. The owner of the All-Heaven shop is already so powerful. Even the Tongtian sect leader is no match for him. In that case, we're saved. Inside the purple light barrier, the tens of millions of cultivators looked at the golden blood on the starry sky battlefield. At first, they were stunned, but then their pale faces were filled with joy and shock. They knew that the owner of the All-Heaven shop was very strong. After all, he had defeated the Jade Emperor 300 years ago. In their view, the owner of the All-Heaven shop had the strength to fight the Tongtian sect leader, but there was no way he could defeat him. After all, the latter was a figure from the era of creation, the founder of the Jie sect. However, the truth was that the owner of the All-Heaven shop, who had only appeared for 400 years, had defeated the Tongtian sect leader and made him bleed. Has he already surpassed the third degree? The Jade Emperor muttered to himself as he looked at Chu Bei. The Tongtian sect leader's cultivation was at the third degree of the great immortal of origin, but the latter could make the former bleed. Obviously, his cultivation was stronger. After recognizing Chu Bei's strength once again, the Jade Emperor's battle intent gradually faded away. He sighed helplessly. He knew that with his current strength, if he fought with the other party, the result would be the same as 300 years ago, a crushing defeat. Patriarch Bodhi did not speak, but his eyes flashed with some surprise. Taishang Laojun and Gautama Buddha looked at each other and gradually frowned. You deserve to die. The Tongtian sect leader roared to the sky as the bloody hole in his chest healed. With a roar filled with monstrous killing intent, the Tongtian sect leader seemed to have triggered the primordial immortal formation. In an instant, a beam of crimson light shot out from the white eye of the formation and landed on his body. In an instant, the Tongtian sect leader's blood and qi surged. A pillar of qi rushed out from the top of his head and pierced through the starry sky. His hands overlapped, and in the blink of an eye, the Tongtian sect leader used several supreme spells to mix them together. Under the mysterious power of the primordial immortal formation, it evolved into a supreme mystery. This was his trump card, Rumble. A long spear formed in front of the Tongtian sect leader. The starry sky collapsed and ghosts wailed. The long spear trembled slightly, causing the great Tao to rumble. The laws intertwined and struck like lightning from the 9 heavens. The Tongtian sect leader borrowed the power of that formation. What is his purpose? Using us as nourishment? What kind of nourishment? On the battlefield, the Tongtian sect leader seemed to have broken through. His aura became more and more terrifying. Even in the distant starry sky, it still made people tremble. They felt that their souls were being suppressed, and they could not breathe. Die. With the Tongtian sect leader's cold shout, the primordial immortal formation resonated. Then, the long spear carried thousands of strange phenomena, stabilized the starry sky, and stabbed toward Chu Bei. One hand covers the sky. Chu Bei glanced at the primordial immortal formation. As soon as he shouted, the epiphany tree appeared behind him. The branches and leaves swayed, and thousands of colors of different shades rippled in the starry sky. Finally, they intertwined and evolved into a bronze palm. In the palm, Xiaohei's power condensed, carrying the aura of time. There were fragments of time dancing, and there were even laws descending, forming a cage like a waterfall. Bang! The giant bronze palm swept out, and the starry sky battlefield completely collapsed, turning into a pool of chaos. This scene shocked the millions of cultivators in the purple light barrier. Even Patriarch Bodhi, the Jade Emperor, the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, and the Gautama Buddha were moved. In the chaos, the giant palm really seemed to cover the sky. There was no end in sight, no end in sight. Crack! With a crisp sound, the long spear broke into several pieces. Almost at the same time, the Tongtian sect leader coughed up blood, and his face was pale as if he had suffered a backlash. The giant palm continued to sweep through the chaos, and with a whoosh, it grabbed the Tongtian sect leader's body. The Tongtian sect leader roared, and a crimson light burst out of his body in the chaos. The cold light in his eyes was terrifying, and white immortal mist spewed out of his mouth and nose. When he opened his mouth, hanging rivers of stars and chaotic sword chi bloomed. However, no matter how he used his strongest spell, he could not break free from the giant bronze palm. An illusion of the iron lump floated on the strange tree. The immortal light released by the two entwined together, and together, they fixed his body and suppressed the majestic immortal power in his body. Bang! On the battlefield, with the Tongtian sect leader as the center, the giant bronze palm suddenly clenched. With a loud explosion, the Tongtian sect leader did not even have time to scream before his body exploded into a pile of minced meat. Is the Tongtian sect leader dead? Tens of millions of cultivators gulped, and their eyes were unblinking as they looked at the pile of minced meat in the chaos. I am immortal. Under the suspicious gaze of the cultivators, the pile of minced meat reassembled and turned back into the Tongtian sect leader. Immortal? Then you can stay in this reincarnation forever. Chu Bei did not seem to care about the Tongtian sect leader, and the corner of his mouth curled up in a smile. As soon as his casual voice fell, a square prison appeared in front of Chu Bei. Coincidentally, the square prison trapped the giant bronze palm. Bang! Another muffled sound rang out. The giant bronze palm clenched, and the Tongtian sect leader turned into minced meat. Don't waste your energy, you can't kill. The minced meat reassembled, and the Tongtian sect leader reappeared. However, before he could finish his words, which were filled with strong killing intent, the giant hand clenched again. The same scene played out again. From minced meat to the Tongtian sect leader, and then to a pile of minced meat. The cycle repeated. Chapter 344. In the void, countless eyes fell on the chaotic battlefield where Chu Bei and Tongtian were, and their faces were filled with shock. Let me out. In the battlefield, after countless cycles, when the pile of minced meat reformed into Tongtian again, there was a clear look of fear in his eyes. Tongtian, who had been annihilated several times, was now pale, his expression ferocious, and his eyes unfocused, as if he had been tortured tens of thousands of times. Tell me, what is your purpose? Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back, looked coldly at Tongtian in the prison, and asked. When Chu Bei asked the question, Patriarch Bodhi, the Jade Emperor, and the tens of millions of cultivators in the purple light shield pricked up their ears at the same time. They were all eager to know the answer to this question. Tongtian glanced at the Chaos Origin Immortals array, then looked angrily at Tathagata Buddha and Taishang Laojun, and shouted, Are you two going to keep watching the show like this? Old brother Tongtian, don't be in such a hurry. Didn't we think that you could handle it alone? Taishang Laojun coughed dryly when he met Tongtian's eyes. He sat on the green ox, holding the Vajra bracelet in one hand and the palm leaf fan in the other, looking amiable. If you don't do something, I'm afraid the myriad immortals array won't last long. Tongtian snorted coldly, his face full of anger. Well, it seems that I have to do something. Before Taishang Laojun could answer, Tathagata Buddha took the lead. He stepped out of the purple light shield and came to the top of the Chaos Origin Immortals array. He sighed faintly and pointed his finger down. Boom! With a loud bang, dazzling golden light spread out, and 3 groups of figures appeared under the purple light shield. No wonder I didn't see them in the Tao discussion conference. They are all here. Look at them. The appearance of this ancient array must have something to do with them. Look carefully. They seem to be frozen by the power of the array. Inside the purple light shield, tens of millions of cultivators looked at the top experts of the Jie sect, Taoism, and Buddhism who appeared below, their faces full of anger. Taking a closer look, he saw that these thousands of people were gathered in a triangular formation in one direction. Among these people, The weakest one was a tiny disbanded celestial, while the strongest one was a great, all-embracing heaven disbanded celestial. At this moment, above their central region, a small rune was floating. That small formation pattern looks exactly the same as the Chaos Yuan 10,000 Immortals formation in the distant sky. Even the aura fluctuations are identical. Within the purple light barrier, the anger on the faces of the 10 million cultivators became even more pronounced. They were now certain that the eternal extinction array above them was inextricably linked to the 3 waves of powerhouses below. Buddha, we've done as you instructed, but why is our life force fading away? Buddha, give us an explanation. Why is that? What kind of formation is this? Not only did it devour our immortal energy, it didn't even let go of our blood essence. Maitreya Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, Manjushri Bodhisattva, Moonlight Bodhisattva, Akalanatha, Peacock Wisdom King, Horsehead Wisdom King, and other big shots of Buddhism were all frozen in place. One could vaguely see that the majestic immortal energy and blood essence in their bodies were being devoured by the small formation pattern. At this moment, their faces were filled with fear as they questioned Lord Tathagata one after another. You are all my Buddhist disciples. My original intention was not to use you as nourishment. I only wanted to absorb a small portion of your immortal energy. But now, I'm afraid it's impossible. A sigh drifted in the void. Then, Lord Tathagata pressed down with his right hand, releasing a dazzling golden light. In the next moment, the small formation pattern formed by the top powerhouses of the 3 forces buzzed and merged with the Chaos Yuan 10,000 Immortals formation in the distant sky. Buddha, no, don't. It was also at this moment that the group of big shots of Buddhism let out shrill screams at the same time. Their screams were filled with pain and fear. Not only the Buddhist disciples, but Taoist Master Taiji, Taoist Master Zishu, Taoist Master Du Yi, Taoist Master Xuanqiu, Taoist Master Miao Xing, Taoist Master Xianhuang, and other powerful Taoist existences also had looks of fear on their faces as they screamed miserably. Why? What did Lord Tathagata and Lord Tathagata do? Look at Sect Master. That's the owner of the All-Heaven shop. Sect Master has actually been defeated. How is this possible? Sect Master is a 3rd-level Chaos Yuan Immortal. Taoist Duobao, the Golden Spirit Saintess, the 28 Mansions, the 36 Heavenly Spirits, the 72 Earthly Fiends, and other powerful figures of the Jie sect all had looks of disbelief when they saw the scene in the Chaos battlefield. They could not believe what they were seeing. Their sect master had actually been defeated by the owner of the All-Heaven shop and was hovering between life and death. In the Chaos battlefield, sect master Tongtian, who had reformed from minced meat, let out a roar. After glaring fiercely at Chu Bei, he pointed a finger. Immediately, a crimson light shot out from his fingertip and penetrated millions of galaxies, landing on the bodies of the Jie sect powerhouses. Then, like the Buddhist and Taoist powerhouses, the expressions of the Jie sect powerhouses changed drastically. Their faces contorted in extreme pain. Buzz, buzz. With the immortal power and blood essence of the top powerhouses of the 3 sects pouring in, the aura of the Chaos Yuan Immortals array in the distant firmament rose to another level in just a few breaths. With a violent tremor, the white pupil of the array I was filled with the color of blood and completely turned into a blood-red eye, releasing a terrifying aura that shook one's soul. The blood-red eye turned, and with a single glance, it shattered an entire galaxy. A beam of blood-red light shot out of his eyes. When it penetrated the star field and landed on Tongtian's body on the Chaos battlefield, Tongtian's aura, which had become weak, suddenly soared again. Roar. A hysterical roar filled with thick, killing intent came from Sect Master Tongtian's mouth. Then, with a loud bang, the prime of Tongtian broke free from the giant bronze hand. Why aren't you killing him with me? Sect Master Tongtian seemed to be afraid. Even though he had successfully broken free of the giant hand's restraint, he did not immediately attack Chu Bei. Instead, he first put a distance between them, his cold gaze landing on Tathagata Buddha and Taishang Laojun. Very well. Tathagata Buddha and Taishang Laojun looked at each other. With a shout, they stepped forward and appeared beside Sect Master Tongtian at the same time. Even now, this old Taoist is still very curious about your origin. Were you born before or after the creation of the heavens? Taishang Laojun twirled the Vajra bracelet in his hand and looked curiously at Chu Bei. What do you think? Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Taishang Laojun with a smile. He did not answer the other party's question. Besides, what does this mean to you? It turns out that Tathagata Buddha and Taishang Laojun are also the masterminds of this conspiracy. It involves 3 Chaos Yuan immortals. They're not even sparing the experts of their sects at all costs. What are they trying to do? Look at them. Are they going to join forces to deal with the owner of All Heaven's shop? Damn it, these shameless people. 3 figures from the creation of the heavens, the supreme sect masters of the 3 sects, are joining forces to deal with one person. Tens of millions of cultivators looked at Chu Bei, sect leader Tongtian, Tathagata Buddha, and Taishang Laojun facing each other on the chaos battlefield. When they saw the situation clearly, anger rose in their eyes, and they all spoke up for Chu Bei. The tens of millions of cultivators inside the purple light barrier and the elites of the 3 sects all looked at the chaos battlefield with fear on their faces. Previously, the owner of All Heaven's shop had defeated sect leader Tongtian, which gave them hope. But who would have thought that not only was sect leader Tongtian behind this conspiracy, but also Tathagata Buddha and Taishang Laojun. In fact, Tathagata Buddha and Taishang Laojun were even stronger than sect leader Tongtian. Are we destined to die today? Even if the owner of All Heaven's shop can defeat sect leader Tongtian, there's no way he can defeat sect leader Tongtian, Tathagata Buddha, and Taishang Laojun working together. 3 Chaos Yuan Immortals. I'm afraid only the legendary Heaven Immortals before the creation of the heavens can deal with them. Tens of millions of cultivators looked desolate and disheartened. Senior brother, do you think Master can deal with them alone? Aolai pointed at the chaos battlefield and looked at Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji. Sun Wukong shook his head, his eyes filled with worry. Master is very strong, but those 3 are all existences from the creation of the heavens. Before Master appeared, their positions were unshakable. Owner of All Heaven's shop, this old man also wants to share the burden with you, but as you can see, I can't leave. Patriarch Bodhi sighed faintly. He sat cross-legged in the void, his body alternating between transparent and solid. One could vaguely see 2 forces fighting inside him. The Jade Emperor glanced at the chaos battlefield, his gaze pausing on Chu Bei for a moment. His expression was indescribably strange. He hated the owner of All Heaven's shop, who had slaughtered several of his celestial court's experts, including the Heavenly Queen Mother. But judging from the current situation, he seemed to be on the same side as sect leader Tongtian. It could even be said that sect leader Tongtian was fighting for him. However, he was in the same situation as Patriarch Bodhi, bound by the purification power of the Chaos Yuan Immortals formation. So what if the 3 of them work together? In the chaos battlefield, Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back, calmly looking at Tongtian, Lord Gautama Buddha, and Taishang Laojun opposite him. He was still as calm as ever, without the slightest fluctuation in his emotions. Amitabha, let this old monk see what you're capable of. Lord Gautama Buddha glanced in Golden Cicada's direction. As his indifferent voice fell, he put his palms together, and the sound of chanting spread out behind him, spreading throughout the entire starry battlefield. Even the experts of the 3 sects and tens of millions of cultivators who were countless galaxies away heard the soul-stirring Buddhist chant. Buddha's light illuminates all. Golden light radiated from Lord Gautama Buddha's body. In an instant, the originally dim starry sky was filled with dazzling golden light, becoming dazzling and dazzling. Lord Gautama Buddha merged into the dazzling golden light, and his figure rapidly enlarged. His entire body exploded with boundless light, as if he had become the only thing in the starry sky, the only one who had become eternal. Rumble. There was another loud bang, and the starry sky trembled. Dazzling golden light surged, and a huge blazing sun appeared. According to the book, Lord Gautama Buddha attained the Tao under the Bodhi tree and comprehended the immortal technique of Buddha's light illuminates all. It can save people, ghosts, and immortals. Is that the true body of Buddha's light illuminates all? Looking at the blazing sun hanging high in the sky, the souls of tens of millions of cultivators trembled. It was a terrifying pressure that they could not bear. Buddha's light illuminates all? Interesting. Then I'll compete with you with the Tao of Buddha. As soon as his voice fell, Chu Bei stepped into the dazzling golden light. The majestic Xiaohei power that was wrapped in chaos circulated around him. The Tao of the heavens manifested, and the laws formed a sea, evolving the order of heaven and earth. Combined. As soon as the syllable fell, the Xiaohei power around Chu Bei released a dazzling golden light. In the next moment, under countless shocked gazes, the endless dazzling golden light evolved into a huge golden Buddha. Two great Buddhas. Is the owner of All Heaven Shop really going to compete with Lord Gautama Buddha in the Tao of Buddha? Lord Gautama Buddha has specialized in this Tao since the era of creation. It can even be said that the Tao of Buddha we know was created by him. Tens of millions of cultivators exclaimed. Even Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor looked over in shock. Is this Master's Buddha power? The golden cicada muttered to himself as he looked at the battlefield. The strange power that had been produced by swallowing the pill of Buddha in his body began to be drawn by the golden Buddha that Chu Bei had evolved. At this moment, the chaotic battlefield was divided into two areas. Two huge Buddhas stood in one area, each releasing a majestic and supreme aura. Rumble. The two great Buddhas had yet to fight, but the collision of their auras had already cut open the chaos. The sky looked like it had been split in half by a giant sword, and the gap was shocking. I didn't expect you to have reached this step in the Tao of Buddha. On the battlefield, Lord Gautama Buddha looked at the great Buddha opposite him. His expression changed, and some shock flashed in his eyes. As his indifferent voice fell, Lord Gautama Buddha pushed his hands forward. The dazzling sun rumbled and pressed forward. That was the light of Buddha, illuminating the world, guiding people, ghosts, and immortals. Buddha's impact. Chu Bei was not afraid. His body became hazy, as if he had merged with the golden Buddha. As the shout rang out, the path understanding tree that was floating in one area rushed into the sky and hovered above the golden Buddha. Then, the golden Buddha raised his hand. The palm of his hand drew on Xiaohei's power and condensed a white light. The translucent shock wave broke through the dazzling golden light and met the golden sun. Boom! The two collided, and the chaotic battlefield suddenly split open. Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, a huge black hole appeared where the starry sky collided, and in an instant, the chaotic battlefield was swallowed up. In an instant, there was only darkness left in everyone's vision. When everything became clear again, Chu Bei, Lord Gautama Buddha, Taishang Laojun, and the Grandmaster of Heaven had already arrived at an even larger battlefield in the starry sky. At this moment, in the center of the battlefield, the dazzling sun and the shock wave were stuck together. The terrifying power contained in the two collided with each other. Around them, countless Buddhist phantoms could be seen chanting. Billions of mysterious scriptures hovered, bringing about strange phenomena. After an unknown period of time, the last trace of energy of the sun and the shock wave was exhausted. Chapter 345. Whoosh! Amidst an ear-piercing screech, the two intertwined into a ray of light that spread far and wide, slicing through the stars, the star domain, and the galaxy. The celestial battlefield fell silent. The star domain, where the tens of millions of cultivators were also plunged into a deathly silence. The owner of All Heaven's Shop actually withstood Lord Gautama Buddha's illumination. Could it be that the owner of All Heaven's Shop's understanding of Buddhism is already on par with Lord Gautama Buddha's? How is this possible? The tens of millions of cultivators stared in disbelief at the unscathed Chu Bei in the celestial battlefield, their eyes filled with astonishment. The Tao of Buddhism is so powerful, no wonder the golden cicada master took him as his master. The Buddhist disciples murmured to themselves. The most astonished person was Guanyin Pusa. She had actually fought with such an existence 400 years ago. What a mysterious fella. After old Master Bodhi regained his senses, his lips curled into a smile. The Jade Emperor remained silent, but his gaze never left Chu Bei. Lord Gautama Buddha hovered in one corner of the celestial battlefield, his body shimmering with golden light. He looked at the location of the previous collision and gradually frowned. This fellow's origins are unknown. I'm afraid it's just as he said, that he was formed from the chaos, just like our patriarch. Tongtian's expression grew more solemn, and a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. Lord Gautama, let this old Taoist have a try. Taishang Laojun appeared beside Lord Gautama Buddha. The immortal elephant above his head was astonishing, with cranes flying, petals of the great Tao sprinkling down, and fairies dancing in the air. It was a beautiful scene. Rumble. Taishang Laojun threw out the Vajra bracelet in his hand. Wherever the bracelet passed, a divine rainbow flashed with runes, shaking the entire celestial battlefield and causing the surrounding star domain to explode. Is this the Vajra bracelet? Chu Bei looked with interest at the golden bracelet that carried with it a majestic immortal Tao aura. With a flip of his right hand, the power of Xiao He evolved into a golden longsword. Boom! Chu Bei raised his sword and slashed down. The sword light whistled and flashed. With a deafening sound, the diamond bracelet was sent flying. Looking at the golden sword in Chu Bei's hand, Taishang Laojun frowned slightly, his face turning grave. This Vajra bracelet was the artifact he used to prove his Tao as a primordial immortal. It had been refined with a large amount of primordial immortal gold for 81 days, and then nourished for tens of thousands of years. It was one of the best primordial artifacts. But now, it had actually been blasted away by the sword that the other party had casually condensed. Gautama Buddha, Tongtian, Patriarch Bodhi, and the Jade Emperor, who were resisting the purifying power of the myriad immortal array, were all surprised. Is this all your Tao-confirming weapon has? Chu Bei fiddled with the golden longsword in his hand. With a smile, Chu Bei stepped on the golden light spots in the sky and brandished his golden longsword again. He swung his sword again. Black snowflakes floated in the astral battlefield. The coldness was bone-piercing. Taishang Laojun's pupils shrank when he saw the black snowflakes converging together with the sword light and sensed the aura contained in them. Without hesitation, Taishang Laojun used the Vajra bracelet and fanned the palm leaf fan at the same time. However, the palm leaf fan that could fan away all things in the world had failed this time. It was all because of the power that did not belong to this world. Crack! The sword carried the black snowflakes and landed on the Vajra bracelet again. With a crisp sound, the indestructible Vajra bracelet was covered with a layer of black ice and then broke into two with a bang. He actually broke the sect master's primordial immortal weapon. The owner of all heaven's shop is really terrifying. He fought Gautama Buddha and the sect master one after another. Not only was he not at a disadvantage, but he also had the upper hand. Looking at the shattered Vajra bracelet in the astral battlefield, Taoist Master Taiji, Taoist Master Zishu, Taoist Master Du Yi, Taoist Master Xuanqiu, Taoist Master Miao Xing, Taoist Master Xianhuang, and other powerful Taoist existences were stunned for a brief moment. After they recovered from their daze, they looked at each other with disbelief in their eyes. There's not much time left. Let's attack together. Tongtian looked at Gautama Buddha and Taishang Laojun. Gautama Buddha nodded. He no longer dared to underestimate Chu Bei. Almost at the same time, every part of his body bloomed with golden light. The chanting of sutras reverberated, and the Buddha shadows in the heavens chanted, buffing his golden body. Buddha creates the world. Gautama Buddha put his palms together and once again used a supreme immortal technique. As he shouted, his hands seemed to connect with the universe and could suppress the four poles of heaven and earth. They possessed supreme power. Rumble. Gautama Buddha clapped his hands and struck at Chu Bei first. Primordial immortality. Illuminate the universe. Tongtian also attacked. His hands formed a surging river of stars, and his legs moved to connect the four poles of heaven and earth. He turned into a beam of light and swept toward Chu Bei. He annihilated the darkness, broke through the chaos, and destroyed everything. One chi into 3 pure ones. The sky rumbled. Taishang Laojun stepped on the 8 trigrams furnace and tore the starry sky apart with his hands. He captured 3 beams of light from the gap and mixed them together. After evolving them into a spear, he threw it at Chu Bei. Looking at Gautama Buddha, Tongtian sect leader, and Taishang Laojun attacking at the same time, the tens of millions of cultivators watching from afar did not have time to change their expressions. Then, an even more shocking scene happened. Countless bluish-green lights appeared in the starry sky in front of Chu Bei. These bluish-green lights gathered from all directions. Amidst the terrifying buzzing sound, another lump of iron appeared in the light. Compared to before, the iron lump that appeared this time had purple eyes. Purple gas lingered on the surface of its body as if it was its flesh and blood. The iron lump that was wrapped in purple light slowly sank into Chu Bei's body. In the blink of an eye, Chu Bei's intimidating aura disappeared. At this moment, Chu Bei gave off the feeling that he had fallen from a supreme existence to an ordinary person. Is this the power that an expert should have? Chu Bei murmured as he felt the boundless energy in his body that seemed to be able to collapse a star field with just one cell. He had used the power of Xiao He again. This time, he had stepped into an even higher realm. The owner's aura has disappeared. What's going on? But why do I feel like the owner has become even stronger? At this moment, the All Heaven Shop's disciples' expressions changed. They all looked at the battlefield with heavy hearts. Could it be that he, unlike the other cultivators, Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor, who were also in the battlefield, were stunned? Their faces were filled with disbelief. Bodhi, what's his realm now? The Jade Emperor looked at Patriarch Bodhi. Perhaps it's just as we've guessed. Patriarch Bodhi took a deep breath. Before the Jade Emperor could speak again, Chu Bei suddenly stepped forward from the center of the battlefield and raised his hand to meet the Tongtian sect leader's light. Chu Bei, who had entered a brand new realm, was now even more relaxed and confident. In the celestial battlefield, Chu Bei strode across the river of stars, surrounded by a terrifying immortal mist. Behind him, hundreds and thousands of balls of light stepped across the river of time from the depths of the boundless starry sky and arrived behind him. Each ball of light had a tiny person sitting cross-legged in it, like a supreme god. Upon closer inspection, each god looked like Chu Bei, but the aura they released was completely different. Some were suffused with a chill, some were dazzling with golden light, some filled the sky with golden light, and some, it's just 3 people working together. At this moment, Chu Bei gave off an illusion that he didn't belong to this world. His aura didn't resonate with heaven and earth at all. It was a mysterious, transcendent power. Chu Bei made his move. He took the initiative to throw a punch at the primordial light that Tongtian had transformed into. Bang! The rolling starry sky exploded, the starry sky was annihilated, and the universe was shattered. Under Chu Bei's fist, the Tongtian sect leader's light turned into starry sky fragments. Not far from Chu Bei, the Tongtian sect leader appeared and spat out golden blood. Before he could even scream, his entire body and primordial spirit exploded. Chu Bei didn't even look at the exploded flesh and blood. He clenched his fist and met the Gautama Buddha's huge palm print that was sweeping toward him. In the battlefield, black snowflakes fell and instantly froze the golden palm print, which then shattered with a cracking sound. It wasn't over yet. The black snowflakes condensed into a long sword. Chu Bei held the hilt and appeared in front of the Gautama Buddha in an instant, swinging the sword. Clang! A metallic sound rang out, accompanied by the faint chanting of sutras. The Gautama Buddha's head flew out. The wound on his neck was flat, and a golden pillar of blood gushed out of his head like a waterfall. It crushed the starry sky and brought about the strange phenomenon of thousands of Buddhas chanting. Chu Bei's figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already in front of Chu Bei, Taishang Laojun, and stretched out his hand. With a cracking sound, the spear formed by the three pure ones was shattered into pieces in Chu Bei's hand. Taishang Laojuan's pupils shrank. He stepped on the 8 trigrams furnace and was about to distance himself from Chu Bei when he realized that the sand painting around him had frozen the sky and blocked his escape. Before he could perform another supreme immortal technique, golden light spots surged, and several golden light swords shot from all directions. With a loud bang, the 8 trigrams furnace was shattered, and Taishang Laojuan's body was covered with bloody holes. It was a shocking sight. How is this possible? The owner of the All-Heaven shop defeated the Gautama Buddha, the Tongtian sect leader, and Taishang Laojun all by himself. Those are the founders of the 3 sects. Where did the owner of the All-Heaven shop come from? In the astral battlefield, the Tongtian sect leader exploded into a pile of minced meat. The Gautama Buddha was beheaded, and Taishang Laojuan's body was pierced by sharp swords. The 3 supreme existences were bleeding profusely, and their golden blood converged into a river of stars that crushed the starry sky. Tens of millions of cultivators watched this scene in a daze, their faces full of disbelief. When they recovered from their daze, they all gasped, as if they had been struck by lightning. They looked like clay statues. The reversal of the situation was too sudden and unexpected, and they were caught off guard. The 3 chaos primordial immortals, Gautama Buddha, Taishang Laojun, and the Tongtian sect leader, were no match for the owner of the All-Heaven shop. Chapter 346. This owner of All-Heaven's shop is so strong. The experts of the 3 sects instantly turned ashen. They stared dumbfounded at the battlefield and the stars. Their brains seemed to have lost the ability to command their actions, and they could only stare in a daze at Chu Bei. Master One, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Monk San glanced at each other, once more recognizing Chu Bei's strength. Ao Lai and Golden Cicada were still in a daze, unable to react. Their master was so terrifying that it would not be an exaggeration to call him the strongest expert in the world. Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor glanced at each other, but they were not too shocked. Ever since they had guessed that Chu Bei had reached the celestial immortal realm, they had already predicted this outcome. 4 chaotic primordial immortals, each level after the 5th was like an abyss, let alone the celestial immortal realm. Rumble. At this moment, the battlefield and the stars began to hum and tremble. Laws, order, and the great Tao all intertwined in a dazzling display. In the dazzling light, Sect Master Tongtian's pulverized flesh began to reform. Lord Gautama Buddha's head flew back to his neck, and the chanting of the 10,000 Buddhas gradually faded away. Grand Supreme Laojuan's ghastly wounds also began to rapidly heal. Golden blood flowed back into the bodies of Lord Gautama Buddha, Grand Supreme Laojun, and Sect Master Tongtian. Could it be that at their level, their bodies are truly indestructible and their souls indestructible? The tens of thousands of cultivators muttered to themselves as they stared at the 3 revived Lords Gautama Buddha, their joy vanishing. You've become a celestial immortal. Tathagata Buddha, Taishang Laojun, and Tongtian sect leader stood side by side. Their voices were trembling, and their expressions were grave. Chu Bei chuckled, but he did not give a reply. Instead, he moved once more, appearing in front of the trio. Boom! Chu Bei's attack was straightforward, and then he used Xiao Hei's power to form an immortal weapon and swept it forward. Fight! Tongtian and the other 2 called out in unison. But in the face of absolute strength, no matter how they used their origin immortal art, they were still incapable of stopping Chu Bei's terrifying attacks. Waves of golden blood rose, and Tongtian's body was the first to be cut into 2. Then, Tathagata Buddha and Taishang Laojuan's limbs, abdomens, and heads were all cut into pieces. The darkness of the battlefield was illuminated because the blood of the origin immortal was too resplendent. It was golden and dazzling, sweeping out with endless light. You can't kill us. Not long after, the prime of Tongtian's voice was heard, and the 3 of them were resurrected. I'm having fun killing them. The corners of Chu Bei's mouth carried a smile as he attacked for the 3rd time. The 3 of them had entered the Zenith Heaven primordial chaos realm. Even if he wanted to kill them, it would take some effort. Boom, boom, boom. Amidst the booms, the bodies of Tongtian and the other two exploded and reassembled over and over again. Damn it! After countless cycles of reincarnation, Tathagata Buddha, Taishang Laojun, and Tongtian all roared at the same time, their voices brimming with rage. A moment later, their auras changed, their ripples of immortal energy reaching a high level of unity. The three of them glanced at each other, bloody light in their eyes, as if they had made a difficult decision. The three of them fixed their murderous gazes on Chu Bei, and with a long howl, crimson beams of light erupted from their heads. The three beams of light pierced through countless star fields and landed on the Origin 10,000 Immortals formation. Buzz, buzz. As the crimson beams of light erupted from the heads of Tathagata Buddha, Tongtian, and Taishang Laojun landed on the formation, the nine-sided formation began to change. With a strange hum, the nine-sided formation began to madly spin, ripples spreading out. The mysterious runes floating around it began to converge on the formation core, accompanied by all sorts of astonishing phenomena. Phoenixes danced, true dragons roared, Cheelants stepped on air, black tortoises carried mountains, and so on. What are the three of them trying to do? Sensing the violent aura fluctuations on the Origin 10,000 Immortals formation, the Jade Emperor frowned. At this moment, whether it was him or Patriarch Bodhi, the purifying power in their bodies suddenly disappeared, and the two tall puppets also returned to the formation core. Chi. Suddenly, a crimson beam of light shot out from the blood-red pupil at the formation core, shattering the firmament of this star field and going deep into the distance. As if the Origin 10,000 Immortals formation had evolved again, the huge blood-red pupil began to fade and was replaced by a vague shadow. The shadow was still a cloud of black mist, showing the shape of a human, but its appearance could not be seen clearly. Suddenly, two beams of crimson light shot out from the shadow's eyes, and a terrifying aura swept through the nine heavens. Tongtian, you are 100,000 years late. Suddenly, a cold and angry rebuke came out from the shadow's mouth. The cold rebuke was emotionless, with the anger of questioning. The cold rebuke directly penetrated through millions of star fields, penetrating into the star battlefield where Chu Bei and the others were. Wherever the sound wave passed, the stars all exploded, turning into a rain of light and dissipating. This aura, sensing the terrifying fluctuation of divine power, Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor's faces changed dramatically, and there was a faint trace of fear in their eyes. As for the millions of cultivators who came to participate in the Doctrine Discussion Conference, as well as the top experts of the three sects, their blood boiled, and they coughed up blood continuously, trembling under the pressure of the aura. Who is that person? From what he said, he doesn't seem to care about sect leader Tongtian at all. Could it be that he is someone who existed before the sky was split open? How could it be? Those existences have long disappeared. Could it be that we are nourishment for this person? Looking at the shadow that appeared in the eye of the immemorial formation, the millions of cultivators looked at each other, and their pupils suddenly shrank, falling into panic. Tongtian, what you have prepared is not enough. The cold voice came out from the shadow's mouth again. The next moment, the immemorial formation collapsed, and the shadow walked out of the eye of the formation. Then, a majestic and dense black light exploded with him as the center. In an instant, this star field fell silent. The rune chains that originally bound the millions of cultivators disappeared, along with their majestic immortal power. Bang, bang, bang. Their bodies exploded, and their flesh and blood merged into the strange shadow. The top experts of the three sects were frightened, but before they could react, the black light had arrived. In the end, like the millions of cultivators, their bodies exploded, and they were swallowed by the black hole-like shadow. Boss, save us. The disciples of the All-Heavens Shop screamed, looking at the figure in the star battlefield for help. However, the black light was too fast, and they couldn't escape this calamity either. Sun Wukong held the Rui Jingu Bang horizontally, Zhu Beiji held the nine-toothed rake, Monk Sha, Aolai, and the golden cicada. The proxy rings on their hands shone at the same time, releasing a light shield to protect them. However, the black light was too terrifying. Even the light shield from the proxy rings lasted less than half a second before it shattered. Then, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and the other four exploded, and their flesh and blood poured into the shadow. Their primordial spirits are still here. Could it be that he only needs our flesh and blood? With their soul and immortal power sucked dry, how long can their primordial spirits last? They can't escape death in the end. Millions of floating primordial spirits appeared in the star field where the roaming Jade Palace was. Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, Monk Sha, Guanyin Bodhisattva. These primordial spirits were the cultivators whose flesh and blood had been taken away by the shadow. Still not enough. The shadow said coldly again, as if licking his lips. His eyes turned and fell on Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor. Whoosh whoosh. Two beams of light shot out of the shadow's eyes, which turned into two giant black hands. They appeared above Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor in an instant, grabbing down. Subduing Immortal's mantra, looking at the descending black hands and feeling the aura they contained, the Jade Emperor's pupils shrank and his immortal light surged. Then, his body turned transparent and turned into a broadsword. The broadsword stood in the stars, the hilt formed by intertwining star fields, the body of the sword gathered by the river of stars, and endless stars circled at the tip. As the black hands reached down, the broadsword that the Jade Emperor had turned into met them. However, the two weren't on the same level at all. The black hands shattered the broadsword easily, and with a whoosh, grabbed the Jade Emperor. The Jade Emperor struggled in pain, and just as he let out a shrill scream, his body exploded with a bang. Before he could reassemble, a pile of flesh and blood was thrown at the shadow by the black hands. Frozen flames of immemorial nature. At the same time, Patriarch Bodhi also met the black hands. In the star fields around him, endless white flames surged out and gathered above his head, turning into a giant fist mark in which many stars could be seen moving. However, the moment the fist and palm met, the fist mark shattered, and the white flames were extinguished. However, the result was the same as the Jade Emperor's. Patriarch Bodhi couldn't launch a second attack before he was captured by the black hands, and then shattered into pieces and flew to the shadow. Even the Jade Emperor and Patriarch Bodhi couldn't withstand a single blow from the shadow. Where did he come from? What kind of existence did the Tongtian sect leader resurrect? Looking at the primordial spirits of the Jade Emperor and Patriarch Bodhi who were in the same situation, millions of primordial spirits were terrified and looked at the shadow in disbelief, guessing the identity and origin of the shadow in fear. This is a great supplement. After devouring the flesh and blood of the Jade Emperor and Patriarch Bodhi, the shadow clearly became more solid, and his flesh and blood could be seen, but his face was still very blurry. I'm still missing some. The black figure stretched his muscles and bones, and after a series of strange and clear crackling sounds, he took a step and disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the starry sky battlefield where Tongtian and the others were. Master, if it weren't for him, you would have returned long ago. The Tongtian sect leader looked at the shadow, bowed respectfully, and pointed at Chu Bei at the same time. However, before the Tongtian sect leader could finish his words, the shadow had already raised his hand and attacked Chu Bei. Chu Bei frowned and held the long sword formed by Xiao Hei's power to meet the enemy. Boom! The two collided, and the shadow directly penetrated Chu Bei's body. However, Chu Bei's body didn't explode, but disappeared in the starry sky as if it had turned into nothingness. Chapter 347. He disappeared. Did the owner of the All-Heaven shop die under the attack of that black shadow? No way. The owner of the All-Heaven shop is so powerful that even Grand Supreme Elderly Lord Buddha Gautama and sect leader Tongtian are no match for him. But you didn't see the respect on the faces of sect leader Tongtian and Buddha Gautama when the black shadow appeared. Even just a beam of light from his eyes shattered the bodies of Patriarch Bodhi and the Jade Emperor. If he really killed the owner of the All-Heaven shop, then what realm has his cultivation reached? The primordial spirits of tens of millions of practitioners floated in the void, staring blankly at the battlefield of the stars. On the battlefield, Chu Bei was nowhere to be seen, as if he had been smashed into nothingness by the black shadow's palm. Not even his body was left behind. Did you hear what sect leader Tongtian called him? Master. Could it be that the black shadow is Patriarch Hongjun? How is that possible? Didn't the existence of the era of creation disappear in the long river of time? How could he appear here? But other than him, who else could make sect leader Tongtian call him master? Who else could easily kill Patriarch Bodhi, the Jade Emperor, and the owner of the All-Heaven shop? Some of the primordial spirits that had entered the realm of disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven and above recalled how sect leader Tongtian had addressed the black shadow. Tracing back to the birth of this universe, there was an innate primordial spirit. After tens of thousands of generations of cultivation, the primordial spirit's merit had been perfected, and it was called the Genesis Primordial Spirit. Later, the Genesis Primordial Spirit found 4 creatures that had just opened their spiritual cavities and taught them cultivation methods. The eldest, Hongjun, cultivated Xianqing Qi. The second, Hun Kuan, cultivated Xianling Qi. The third, Niuhua, cultivated Xianqing Qi. The fourth, Luya, cultivated Xianming Qi. Later, Hongjun ancestor took in 3 disciples, Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, Heavenly Lord Yuanshi, and sect leader Tongtian. Patriarch Hun Kuan also had 2 disciples that he was most proud of. One was Buddha Gautama, and the other was Patriarch Bodhi. Sect leader Tongtian, what's going on? Martial Uncle Hongjun clearly went to the other side of the sea with Master and Grandmaster. Why is he here? Who the hell is he? Patriarch Bodhi's primordial spirit arrived at the astral battlefield and questioned Tongtian. The other side of the sea? Where is that? Guanyin Pusa, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, and the other Buddhist experts looked at each other. Old Bodhi, if he's not master, who do you think he is? Taishang Laojun asked before Tongtian could reply. Tathagata, how much do you know? Even if he really is martial Uncle Hongjun, is there a need for so many lives to be sacrificed in order to revive him? Patriarch Bodhi's gaze landed on Lord Gautama Buddha. Junior brother, senior brother only received some benefits. I'm just doing things for them. Tathagata Buddha glanced in the direction of the black shadow and then put his palms together. His whole body emitted golden light, and 10,000 Buddhas chanted scriptures behind him. A legendary celestial immortal. Huh? The Jade Emperor's primordial spirit also arrived at the astral battlefield. He looked at the black shadow and murmured in a low voice. Then, he looked at Tongtian. You activated the Chaos Immortals formation and used 10 million cultivators as nourishment just to revive him? The Tongtian sect leader ignored the Jade Emperor and looked respectfully at the black shadow. Master, have you already killed the owner of the All-Heaven shop? Is there anything else you need? This disciple is willing to continue to serve you. Strange. The black shadow looked around as if searching for something. After a fruitless search, he shook his head and murmured. Then, his gaze landed on Lord Gautama Buddha. Martial nephew Tathagata, your junior brother has been sacrificed to martial uncle. You should do the same. What do you mean? In order to revive you, I sacrificed all the experts in the sect. Lord Gautama Buddha's expression changed drastically. He pointed a finger at the floating primordial spirits of the Buddhist experts and shouted coldly, I contributed to your revival. Are you going to repay kindness with ingratitude now? Master, this disciple promised him that as long as he was willing to help, but there's still some time before I can be truly revived. Before Tongtian could finish, the black shadow interrupted him and gave Lord Gautama Buddha an answer with his actions. He raised his right hand slightly. Black flames filled the sky and swept to Lord Gautama Buddha's side. Traitor! Lord Gautama Buddha looked coldly at Tong Tian. When he felt the aura of the black flames, his face turned extremely gloomy. Buddha's light illumination. As he shouted, golden light radiated from Lord Gautama Buddha's body. The dim starry sky was filled with dazzling golden light. His figure rapidly enlarged and merged into the golden light. Finally, he turned into a huge blazing sun. Sizzle. However, the Buddha's light illumination that could save people, ghosts, and immortals was so weak in front of the black flames. Almost instantly, the huge blazing sun collapsed and turned back into Lord Gautama Buddha's appearance. Puff. Lord Gautama Buddha spat out golden blood. Before he could recover, the black flames continued to press down and burned his flesh and primordial spirit. You won't have a good ending. Lord Gautama Buddha roared as he watched his flesh and blood disappear into Hong Jun ancestor's body. It would be fine if only his flesh was gone. However, even the soul power in his primordial spirit was sucked dry. In this way, their primordial spirits would dissipate between heaven and earth sooner or later. At that time, they would die in the truest sense. They would not even have the chance to be reincarnated. It's really full of power. The black shadow let out a long and comfortable sigh. The black fog on his face gradually dissipated and his appearance began to become clear. In the end, the black fog around his body completely disappeared. It was a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s. He was dressed in a black Taoist robe. Majestic divine power was rolling in his body. It seemed that he could destroy this starry sky battlefield with a single thought. The pressure that he unintentionally released made even people as strong as Tong Tian and Taishang Laojun shudder. Congratulations, Master. Tong Tian and Taishang Laojun hurriedly stepped forward and bowed to the black shadow respectfully. I'm very satisfied with what you two have done. The black shadow nodded with satisfaction. After glancing at Tong Tian and Taishang Laojun approvingly, his gaze penetrated countless star fields and fell on the tens of millions of floating primordial spirits. It's time to reshuffle the cards in today's world. As his faint voice fell, the black shadow waved his sleeve. A ripple pierced through the sky and landed on the star field where the tens of millions of primordial spirits were. Ah, the first wave of primordial spirits that were swept by the ripple all exploded and turned into nothingness. Shrill and fearful cries echoed in the void. Master is dead. Let's go and follow him. I didn't expect that the person resurrected by Tong Tian would be Hong Jun ancestor. I'm afraid that Lord Gautama wanted me to be his furnace. Maybe if Master was given another 100 years, he would be able to defeat Hong Jun ancestor. It's a pity that God is playing tricks on us. Time doesn't allow for it. Otherwise, our all-heaven shop would be the #1 force in the world. With Master's achievements, not to mention Hong Jun ancestor, I'm afraid that he would be comparable to a Genesis primordial spirit. Looking at the incoming ripple, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and the other disciples of the all-heaven shop showed no fear as if they were already prepared. Rumble. However, just as the ripple was about to destroy the primordial spirits of Sun Wukong and the others, the starry sky trembled violently. The next moment, a huge fist print appeared out of thin air and blasted the ripple into nothingness. We're fine. Look, the owner. He's here. He's not dead. He must have saved us. Looking at the fist print that blasted the ripple and released a monstrous and terrifying aura, the disciples of the all-heaven shop were stunned at first. When they came to their senses, they were wild with joy. I knew that Master wouldn't die so easily. He's the one who created the all-heaven shop. Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, Monk Sand, and the others looked at each other with excitement in their eyes when they saw the figure that appeared in the battlefield. The owner of the all-heaven shop actually survived Hong Jun ancestor. The tens of millions of cultivators, including the top experts of the 3 sects, looked back at the battlefield of the stars. When they didn't know the identity of the Black Shadow, they were shocked that the Black Shadow could kill the owner of the all-heaven shop. However, after knowing the identity of the Black Shadow, they were shocked that Chu Bei could survive the attack of the Black Shadow. This change was due to the identity of the Black Shadow. He was the eldest disciple of the Genesis primordial spirit, the master of Taishang Laojun and sect leader Tongtian, and a celestial immortal. You're not dead. On the battlefield, sect leader Tongtian and Taishang Laojun looked coldly at Chu Bei. Their voices were filled with astonishment and disbelief. The eyes of Patriarch Bodhi and Gautama Buddha were filled with disbelief at the same time. No one knew Hong Jun ancestors' cultivation better than them. Although the strength of the owner of the all-heaven shop was far above them, no matter how strong he was no different from an ant in front of Hong Jun, who had existed before the creation of the sky. You have the death substitution mystic technique. Sect leader Tongtian stared at Chu Bei. This was the only possibility he could think of. You really avoided that attack. The black shadow looked at Chu Bei casually, as if he did not take him seriously at all. He was very calm. It's just a demonic body that has been shed. Even if Hong Jun is really here, I'm not afraid. Chu Bei looked at the black shadow. He seemed to have changed into a different person. A faint sigh came out of his mouth, penetrating the battlefield, spreading through billions of star regions, and permeating the entire starry sky. This was the 4th time he had borrowed Xiaohei's power, and it was also the last time he used it. It was precisely because his cultivation base had increased again that he could see through the background of Hong Jun in front of him. What is the owner of the all-heaven shop saying? Hong Jun's demonic body? What is the meaning of his words? Could it be that the resurrected person is not the real Hong Jun ancestor? My God! Then where did the real Hong Jun ancestor go? But even if he is not the real Hong Jun ancestor, he is still the supreme existence in the legend. I'm afraid the fight between the owner of the all-heaven shop and him will end badly. Chu Bei's voice rang in everyone's ears, and the faces of millions of cultivators suddenly changed. So it's the demonic body shed by martial Uncle Hong Jun. Everything makes sense now. At this moment, Patriarch Bodhi looked as if he had suddenly come to a realization. Tongtian, you didn't tell me this. Gautama Buddha angrily rebuked Tongtian, his face gloomy. How did you know? Tongtian ignored Gautama Buddha and stared at the owner of the all-heaven shop with Taishang Laojun. Are you questioning me? Chu Bei's voice was indifferent. His gaze focused, and 2 beams of light fell on Tongtian and Taishang Laojun. With a loud bang, Tongtian and Taishang Laojun did not have time to react before their bodies exploded into minced meat. Unlike before, their flesh and blood did not recombine this time. Instead, they directly turned into great Dao rune fragments and completely disappeared. No, don't. How? How could your strength? Tongtian and Taishang Laojun were stunned as they looked at their disappearing bodies. Then, their faces were filled with horror, and their voices were filled with fear. Not only had they completely lost contact with their bodies, but their primordial spirits had also been completely annihilated. It could be said that they were now in the same situation as Patriarch Bodhi, Gautama Buddha, and the millions of cultivators. Their primordial spirits would soon disappear from the world. To be exact, their situation was even worse because their primordial spirits were damaged. Compared to Gautama Buddha and the others, their primordial spirits would dissipate faster. Master, save us. Tongtian and Taishang Laojun's primordial spirits floated behind Hong Jun's demonic body and pleaded. When they looked at Chu Bei again, their eyes were filled with deep fear. They could not understand why Chu Bei, who they could still fight against before, had his cultivation level increased again. He could even kill them directly. Gautama Buddha, Patriarch Bodhi, and the Jade Emperor also stared blankly at Chu Bei, as if they had lost their souls. Their faces were filled with surprise. Obviously, they could not believe the result of Chu Bei's attack. The owner of the all-heaven shop seems to have become stronger. Previously, he could not kill Tongtian and Taishang Laojun at all. But this time, it's different. Their primordial spirits are also dissipating. The 10 million cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air, dumbfounded. As for the all-heaven shop's disciples, their faces were brimming with joy as hope rose in their eyes. Who are you? Hong Jun's demonic body ignored the pleas of Tongtian and Taishang Laojun. His eyes were fixed on Chu Bei, and his voice was extremely calm. Your master's primordial spirit was formed in the chaos, but in terms of time, he is just a junior in front of me. Chu Bei put his hands behind his back, his robe fluttering without wind. He was calm and composed. As soon as these words came out, not only was Hong Jun's demonic body moved, but Gautama Buddha, Patriarch Bodhi, the Jade Emperor, and the millions of cultivators felt as if they had been struck by lightning. The day the owner of the All Heavens shop was born was before the primordial spirit. They would not doubt the authenticity of Chu Bei's words, because in their view, an existence of such a realm disdained to deceive the world. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.